Polls are starting to close across the state, and our special election night coverage right here on 11 Alive Plus, it is just beginning. Thank you for joining us. I'm Zach Merchant.
And I'm Faith Jassy, and voting for statewide races has now closed. However, polls in Atlanta, those will remain open until 8 p.m. Important to note, those who are in line after 7 p.m. will not be eligible to vote in that statewide PSC races. We do have a team of reporters across Metro Atlanta as well as panelists here at 11 Alive ready to bring you the latest results as they come in.
Right now, let's first get you up to speed with the races we are currently tracking. Atlanta Mayor Andre Dickens, he is facing three candidates, Helmut Domagalski, Kalima Jackson, and Eddie Meredith.
That's right. PSC District 2 Commissioner Tim Echols, he's the incumbent here, the Republican facing a challenge from Democrat Alicia Johnson. Also with the PSC District 3, the commissioner, the incumbent Republican Fitz Johnson, he is facing a challenge from Democrat Peter Hubbard.
And it's not just that Atlanta mayoral race, those PSC statewide races. We're also watching for the Atlanta City Council president race. Council member Marcy Collier Overstreet, she is facing Rohit Malhotra. And of course, in the city of South Fulton, Mayor Khalid Kobi Kamau faces a crowded field, Faith.
That's right. 8 people trying to unseat him in that race, a very big contested race that we are watching. But we want to get straight to our panel tonight. Fal Sabak is the Senior Managing Director at Denton's and former Executive Director of the Georgia House Democratic Caucus. Spiro Amburn, Senior Vice President at McGuire Woods Consulting. He has previously served as Chief of Staff for Republican Georgia House Speakers John Burns and David Walston. And Chauncey Alcorn, a state and local politics reporter at Capital B Atlanta. All returning panelists, if you join us on Sunday mornings at 11. If you don't, you're going to have to start. Thank you all so much for being here. Our bellies are full of election night pizza, and we're going to get right into it. Spiro, I want to start with you. What are you watching tonight?
Enthusiasm. I think it's all about seeing which side has enthusiasm or who has the most enthusiasm. We have 2 statewide races for the first time on the same day as when we typically have our municipal races in Georgia. So kind of interested to see which side has the most motivation to get out to the polls.
Motivation, enthusiasm, Fal, are those synonyms for turnout?
Yes. Well, yes, they can be. Absolutely. I think we want to see whose base is more energized to come out to kind of figure out, what is 2026 going to look like.
Chauncey, what are you seeing?
The story, name of the game this year is incumbency, and folks that are challenging that. I think that's one of the themes, this populist energy that we've seen at the national level. So it'll be interesting to see if some of our city elected leaders will be able to overcome that, as well as in the South Fulton mayor's race. I'm also very interested in that.
We are all very interested in that race, I think. And we're just getting started, so we are going to check back in with you all in a bit. I think, am I hearing we need to keep going?
I think, we say we've got more and we're going to keep going. We're going to keep going right now. I have another question for all of you. We have some situation, we were talking about the South Fulton mayoral race, where I don't know if we have the graphic up on screen yet, but it almost fills the entire screen, the number of candidates who are on this ballot. So many people running. Chauncey, do you expect some of these races like that South Fulton mayoral will not be fully decided tonight, meaning they're going to go to a runoff?
Yeah, it's the state threshold is 50% plus 1, so, and when you have a crowded field like that, it's very likely that can happen. But Mayor Kobi is the incumbent, and we've seen situations that controversial candidates who are incumbents, Sheriff Labatt in Fulton County had a lot of criticism, but he was able to pull it off, so you never know what's going to happen.
And if he does get selected, we don't know who's going to come on top of this race, but back in 2021, he did win in a runoff against then the very first mayor of South Fulton, that was William Edwards, who's also on the ballot this time. So he lost that race in that runoff, and he is now with those 8 challengers, including some of Mayor Kobi's council members who want that seat now. So that's going to be a really interesting race.
It very much is. And Fal, Spiro, I want to ask you this question. You're both experienced political strategists. You've been in the rooms with candidates on election night. You do all the work, you're campaigning, you're knocking on doors, you're doing all the things candidates do, and then election day hits. I would bet there's some nervous energy for the candidates on a night like tonight. I'm seeing you both smile. These are wry smiles. Tell us some stories, Fal. What is the conversation like in those rooms with the candidates on a night like this?
So this is the night where my psychology degree really comes in handy because it starts, you really kind of need to talk people, keep the energy up, but you kind of watch the numbers. you kind of have to keep your hand steady because the candidate is going through a million emotions at this point. They're kind of greeting people, shaking hands with their families, etc. So your job on the political staff side is really to kind of keep the hand on everybody to say, okay, let's look at the numbers, let's make sure we're tracking correctly, let's figure out, who we need to call to figure out what's going on.
Is this like a political therapy session, or does that come after? I'm kidding.
It's all in together. So
Spiro, you had a similar experience?
Well, I think any of us that have been in campaigns long enough, you've been on both sides. You've been on the winning side and the losing side. And a close confidant of mine said one time, winning is better than losing, and it is. But you learn a lot either way. There are lessons to take. But Election Day, in my opinion, it was always the strangest day of the entire campaign because you work so hard. For sometimes 18 months, and you grind and you get ready for Election Day. You do everything you can, and then Election Day comes and you're waiting.
And that is why we have you guys here.
Right.
We're excited to just get some more insight and input. We only see the ballot, that 2% of all the work that you all have put into. Let's put a pause on this right now because I'm hearing that one of our reporters, Gilad Malamed, is joining us in Milton. She is there at the site covering the PSC race. Hi, Gilad. We see you live now. Can you give us a little insight about what you're seeing on the ground there?
Good evening, guys. We're at Republican candidate Fitz Johnson's watch party. We're expecting people to start showing up here shortly. He's an incumbent, and he's one of the 5 Republicans that make up the Public Service Commission. That is all the seats, but Democrats are looking to change that this year. In District 2, we have Republican incumbent Tim Echols facing off against Democratic challenger Alicia Johnson. And in District 3, where we are, Republican incumbent Fitz Johnson is facing Democrat Peter Hubbard. Both of these are statewide seats. And for the more than 2 million Georgians who rely on Georgia Power, they've seen their bills increase 6 times in recent years. And Republicans note that the commission enacted a 3-year freeze on base rates back in July. A key issue, though, in this race is the impact data centers have or will not have on Georgia Power rates. 11 Alive News asked both District 2 candidates if they're prepared to say rates will not rise because of data centers.
I can't promise anything in the future, except that one day, Jesus Christ is coming back. That's all I can promise you right there. So we've done our best to make sure to lock in data centers with, tight security.
I think that as soon as I get in that seat, that I'm going to be working and coordinating with our legislative body. I'm going to cross the street and knock on some doors and talk about getting some regulatory guardrails put on data centers.
We will be here monitoring the results as they come in. We're also aware of all 4 watch parties happening across the state for these PSC candidates. We'll be monitoring those parties as well. Live in Milton, Gilad Malamed, 11 Alive News.
All right, Gilad, a whole lot to track. Thank you very much. And our team coverage of this Decision 2025 election night continues. We have Joe Ripley. He is joining us live now from the city of Atlanta, where, Joe, there are a whole lot of races to keep an eye on in that city.
That's right. But first, we will hone in on the big race here in the city of Atlanta. That is the race for mayor. Atlanta Mayor Andre Dickens. We are at his watch party here, the Hyatt Regency downtown. Things just getting going. You might hear that music bumping in the background. Some volunteers we just ran into say they're feeling excited, optimistic about how this night will go. Of course, Dickens is projected to win pretty handily tonight. We'll see if the results actually corroborate those expectations from the Dickens campaign here. But you can see behind me this spread here. This is not the mayor's first rodeo. Of course, he ran back in 2021, just 4 years ago, as a city councilman at the time. But he hails from Adamsville, and that's in southwest Atlanta, an area near and dear to Mayor Dickens' heart. Of course, the mayor, his accomplishments range the gamut of affordable housing, especially on that southwest side of Atlanta, other underserved communities. You might have noticed more development downtown. That is due in part to Mayor Andre Dickens and his commitment to try and get 20,000 units of affordable housing, but also ahead of the World Cup, which Atlanta is set to host next year. The mayor is also going to face his fair share of challengers tonight, 3 of them. Helmut Domagowski is a Republican, the only Republican Republican in this race that is technically nonpartisan, but Domagowski says he plans to bring a loving type of conservatism to the mayor's office, wants to expand those relationships, not just from City Hall, but all the way to Washington, D.C. and the White House. You have Kalima Jackson as well, a former Atlanta police officer, served 13 years on the force. He wants to invest more in law enforcement, hire more officers, and commit to bolstering public safety. And then you have Eddie Andrew Meredith, a community activist who wants to hone in on more environmental concerns when it comes to some of the deeds that Atlanta historically has really not done, he says, to serve communities as a whole. He also wants to cut waste when it comes to frivolous lawsuits here in the city. So Atlanta Mayor Andre Dickens does have his competition. He has his criticisms as well. All of these candidates that he's running against have criticized him over his handling of the Office of Inspector General. You might remember earlier this year, the OIG had to step down. Also, Dickens receiving flack for how he handled the construction of the Atlanta Public Safety Training Center, getting all of the feedback and making informed decisions as well as the transparency. There are some questions there when it comes to his detractors. We'll see how it all turns out tonight. Coming up a little bit later, we will tell you more about some of those other key races, including for Atlanta City Council President. Back to you all.
All right, Joe Ripley, live for us there. Thank you so much. Inside the Hyatt there for Mayor Dickens' watch party, as well as where he might give remarks later in the night if he does come out on top in this race. I want to go to Chauncey with Capital B Atlanta. And I pulled up an article here that you wrote in August of this year about Mayor Dickens. The first line, tackling income inequality and building another 10,000 affordable housing units are two of Atlanta Mayor Andre Dickens' goals for his second term in office. Obviously, right now we're in the middle of a government shutdown. There was a recent AJC poll that showed top of mind of both voters was the cost of living. How important is it for voters when it comes to affordable housing? And what are you seeing Mayor Dickens in that sphere? How is he trying to tackle that?
So affordability is the name of the game right now across the country and in Metro Atlanta. We're seeing a lot of folks who are being impacted by the cuts to SNAP and the government shutdown. Mayor Dickens, when he was on city council, was viewed as progressive. A lot of folks in the more progressive community in the city kind of view him as, some of them view him as kind of betraying them on issues like Cop City and other things that they feel more strongly about. However, amongst the rank and file Democrats, which most of Atlanta is a predominantly Democratic city, obviously, he's very popular. He's charismatic, a good-looking guy. He's perceived as the kind of a standard bearer for the Democratic Party in the state of Georgia. And so, there's a lot of folks, I remember reporting on this a couple months ago, everybody had all these criticisms for the mayor, especially the Stop Cop City folks.
I was going to say that, and that could have been a nail in the coffin technically, but I mean, he kind of really soared right over that.
None of them were willing to go against him.
Yeah.
And, it takes time to build a campaign. And, you're coming up all the way to August, now your qualifying period, it's pretty much too late. So that's kind of how it went.
Let's talk about the future here a little bit. We're talking about Mayor Andre Dickens now. He's running for a second term. Again, we do not know what the results of tonight's election are going to be, but most signs, most strategists agree, Republicans, Democrats, that Mayor Dickens is in a strong position to win re-election tonight. If that does happen, he serves a second term. Fal, what does the future, the political future for Mayor Andre Dickens look like for 8 years down the line?
Yeah, I mean, I think all doors are open for him at that point. I mean, if he, we have some really big tests for the city of Atlanta coming up, World Cup coming here. I think if he continues to show the leadership that he's been showing and gaining the momentum that he's been gaining, I think that he could have his pick of what he wanted to do on the next level.
Spiro, from a Republican's perspective, do you agree with that analysis? Do you think does your party look at somebody like Andre Dickens as an emerging figure on the Democratic side?
Sure. I mean, I think when you look at where the city was, 4 years ago, and where it is now, I mean, I think particularly from a public safety standpoint, there's no doubt, that it's in a much better place now than it was then. And his stance on the Public Safety Training Center, took courage, frankly. So from that standpoint, if he gets reelected, has a good second term, as Fal said, and there could be a number of opportunities that present themselves. We don't know what's going to happen with the presidential election, in 2 years. So, there could be a congressional seat, could be U.S. Senate, could be an appointment somewhere. So I would say he would be on the short list for something like that.
And things have obviously changed since 4 years ago. You had COVID, you had protests and demonstrations from George Floyd, but a lot of analysts also point to the fact that Mayor Dickens, although he is a very strong Democrat, has maintained that relationship with Governor Brian Kemp, who's a very popular governor as well. So very interesting to watch on that race.
Very much so. A lot of election results to track. We're going to continue to track it. We are also staying on top of breaking news coming out of Louisville, Kentucky right now, where a UPS plane has crashed. Here's what we know. The crash happened during takeoff at Muhammad Ali International Airport around 5:15 this afternoon. The plane was headed to Honolulu, Hawaii. There were 3 crew members on board, and there are reports of injuries on the ground. Video into the newsroom here shows flames and smoke rising from the scene. Officials issued a shelter-in-place order for a 5-mile area there in Louisville. Fire crews are now working to contain the blaze. And Kentucky Governor Andy Beshear, he is on his way to Louisville right now. We are working to learn more information in real time. Stay with us for the very latest, and stay with us for more election night coverage. It is all coming up right after this quick break.
And before we go to break, you can text results to the number on your screen to give live results sent straight to your phone. Text results to 404-885-7600. We will send those to you. Stay with us. Don't go anywhere. We'll be right back.
Well, welcome back into our special election night coverage right here on 11 Alive Plus. And Faith, we are starting to get some early results tonight.
That's right. As you can remember, we had early voting that ended October 31st on Halloween. So we are starting to get those early voting numbers in for the Public Service Commission race. You're taking a look at numbers from District 2. You see Alicia Johnson, the Democratic challenger to Republican incumbent Tim Echols on top with about 25,000 votes there, 69% of the votes. Keep in mind, these are early numbers, and historically, Democrats have turned out for early voting. Let's get over to District 2 right now to see these totals. Or excuse me, that was District 2. This is District 3. Incumbent Fitz Johnson, the Republican, and Peter Hubbard, the Democrat. Similar numbers here. 69% of the vote right now for Peter Hubbard. But Zach, as I was saying, these are just the initial numbers, those early voting numbers. And we see even in the 2024 election, the Democrats kind of had a little bit of an edge early on. But as the numbers are counted, we will likely see those numbers shift a little bit.
And we've seen this dynamic it playing out more and more here in Georgia, where the early vote tends to skew more Democratic.
That's right.
And day of turnout tends to be a major focus for Republicans. Spiro, you're a Republican strategist. Am I characterizing that accurately?
I mean, I think so, although I do think that many Republican voters now are taking advantage of early voting, particularly
More so in
old-
recent past cycles, because that was an issue for Republicans not so long ago.
Yeah, I think more so now, and particularly older voters. But you know, on election day, and when you look at these races, I'm interested to see exactly where these early returns are going to be coming from, because the later in the night, when you get the larger metropolitan areas, which just by nature it takes longer to count the votes.
I can actually show you that right now.
Right.
We can share our computer
Okay.
screen here, and we can see some of these early vote totals. We are referencing the Secretary of State's website here, and I know it's a little far there.
And while you guys are checking that map,
Okay.
and this is great, this is live TV, we're all figuring this out in real time.
Okay.
Val, let me bring you in and ask you a question about this. Let me ask you this turnout question as well. We said earlier, just before the break, turnout is the name of the game here.
That's good.
This is an off-cycle year for what is typically a kind of sleepy race in the Public Service Commission. Not that it's not important, but not the fireworks that it's getting this year. Is it a challenge for a candidate in a race like this to convince voters to come out and vote for them without the help of a big name like a governor at the top of the ticket?
It is a challenge, but if you're running your campaign correctly, you're getting people kind of energized to see, because I mean, like you said, PSC is not the most bombastic race, but it is something that's very important. I think what's also helping this year is you do have a bunch of municipal races across the state. So there are folks that are engaged, voting for their local elected officials, their mayors, and I think those folks are also coming out to say, oh, PSC is also on the ballot, cool. Like, I'm gonna vote for who I wanna vote for.
And that was a dynamic, Chauncey, that Republicans were worried about, right?
Absolutely. So you got, obviously, in Metro Atlanta, a lot of mayoral candidates, and in the cities you tend to have more Democratic voters. So that's going to bring more blue team to the polls.
And the
that was a
thinking
big
is they get in
concern.
that ballot booth, they're there maybe to vote for the mayor, and they look down and say, hey, which are the other Democrats on the ballot?
Absolutely.
And it's maybe even a game time decision where you're voting just a straight ticket there.
Absolutely. So one of the things, I know that there's been a lot of money thrown into this race. The Republican had a fundraising advantage. The incumbents, Mr. Echols and Ms. Fitz Johnson, but groups like Georgia Conservation Voters have spent millions to also prop up the Democratic candidates as well.
And I mean, it's kind of significant too, because you're talking about a body that is all Republican. If the Democrats do come out on top and are able to unseat these incumbents, what is that message? And I want to go to you, Spiro. What is that message overall to Republicans? We obviously do not know how this is going to turn out, but hypothetically speaking, if one of the Democrats are successful, what would that message be to Republicans, kind of looking ahead to the midterms?
I think the message is you better have a good game plan going into 2026. I mean, that's going to send some shockwaves throughout the state, although, you know, what we're talking about, relatively speaking, is still a very low turnout statewide.
Yeah.
So I don't think it's hit the panic button time, because I think you're going to have a much better sampling of the electorate next year. But, I mean, there's no bones about it. If the Democrats win one or even both of these seats, that's a wake-up call.
Can we bring Fal in now? Let me ask you that question from the opposite perspective. There's all sorts of narrative shaping right now. I feel like we have these conversations at the Georgia Vote every weekend. I feel a little bit like, you know, in an NBA game, you work the ref a little bit. I feel like we are in that seat sometimes where the Republicans and Democrats are both trying to shape the narrative. Spiro, we asked you what it would mean for Republicans if a Democrat flips one of these seats. There's been lots of money, millions of dollars spent on this race. Fal, if Democrats are not successful in flipping either of these seats, what does that say about the state of the Democratic Party this year?
I mean, I think that we just have to hunker down at that point. I think that we continue to kind of keep pounding and going to the doors, going to the voters, talking. You have an unpopular top of the ticket who's President Trump. We're going into the midterms. He's not on the ballot, but, you know, during a midterm year, the electorate does usually swing against whoever is in power. And you've got the Republican trifecta on the federal level. And so I think that there is an argument to be made, even if the Democrats lose tonight. It could be, okay, we just need to figure out what the game looks like, what the groundwork looks like. Because, I mean, the people who are coming out now, they're going to be the ones that are coming out next year.
These are folks who are very energized
Correct.
voters, right?
So it'll help you map out, okay, this is who's going to come out no matter what. Who else do we need to reach out to get to 50+1?
Let's speaking of getting to 50 plus 1, let us start looking at some more brand new results here as we work to find out who finally crosses that threshold. We're looking at the race between Alicia Johnson, the Democratic challenger, and incumbent Republican Tim Echols here. Some new numbers here. Those percentages have shifted just a little bit, and the gap has closed, has narrowed just a bit. Alicia Johnson still out to this early lead with about 61,000 votes in her column. Tim Echols with about 36,000 votes in his column. But still, at this point, only about 90,000 votes reported in this District 2 race. Let's take a look at brand new results from the District 3 race here for the Public Service Commission. And again, these are both statewide races, so Georgians across the state are casting ballots here. Similarly, about 100,000 votes reporting in total right now. The Democrat, Peter Hubbard, he's out to this early lead here, 63% of the votes so far for him. Fitz Johnson, the Republican incumbent, 37%. Those numbers are going to change. They're going to move. Chauncey, let me ask you this. We see this roughly 63 to 37% split right now in the favor of the Democrats. As this night wears on, do you expect that margin to get closer?
It's a good question. I'm not sure, but I can say this with certainty. People are tired of high bills. Affordability is the major concern for voters right now. So even amongst Republican voters, that's a big concern for the incumbents as well. So I think that this is a referendum on that. So it's a question of whether or not that's enough to, overturn party affiliation and some of the other things that typically go into a race like this. It's an obscure race for a regulatory body that most folks aren't familiar with. But and then the primary season you saw almost near record low turnout. So it'll be interesting to see how this plays out.
I think that's the biggest point right there. It's an obscure race. I mean,
Until this year.
And in taking just a quick glance at the map where the votes are coming from, which it looks like it's a pretty good sampling from around the state, even though we don't have a lot of returns in yet. I think if you're a Republican I'm looking at that and thinking, okay, that's somewhat troubling when you see such a wide gap with such a wide variety of counties.
Some rural counties on this map right now.
So again, the later in the night goes, when Fulton and DeKalb, for example, start coming in, we know those are going to be strong Democratic, counties because of the mayor's race, and others. So that's what I'm watching. But I do think that it's more about the race being obscure and perhaps lack of enthusiasm to vote in those races than it is any sort of mandate or policy issue.
It's certainly different than if we had that governor's race at the top of the ticket where a lot of people are engaged and they feel. But I think it's also important to note that in these type of races where there is lower turnout, your vote almost has much more weight, right? Because you don't have as many people who are coming to the ballot to vote. And Spiro, you do also bring up a good point here as well. Just kind of looking at this map, you do have some of those rural counties that you would think would come out during Election Day. But the question is, are people going to come out at all if they either did not know about it or they thought about it and said, you know what, I'm going to let somebody else handle that. Call me in May during the Senate primary.
Some of those places, PSC may be the only thing on the ballot, and I just have a hard time thinking that you're going to get a lot of Republicans out to vote just for a PSC race.
Let's underscore this point just for a moment here, though, Chauncey. I want to bring you in, because Faith made that point. Your vote really matters in Georgia. It matters anywhere in the country. If you're casting a ballot, it matters in the United States. We have said for many years now, though, if you're a Georgia voter, it really matters. In big years, 2024, 2022, 2020, those races decided by a very narrow margin. And now you have these even, I don't want to call them smaller, but races where they're going to be lower turnout. When we talk about shoe leather campaigning, door knocking, campaigns have gotten so expensive now. I don't want to say those things have gone by the wayside, but there's a very sophisticated apparatus. But in a race like this PSC race, or even smaller municipal races, do those old school politicking tricks, do they have a chance to really move the needle?
So the conventional wisdom is Democrats turn out every 4 years and Republicans turn out every 2. We're talking about an off-year election, so that doesn't really even come into play. The biggest narrative about this particular race is that the incumbent commissioners have voted in favor of raising rates for Georgia Power, the largest energy provider in the state. I believe it's 6 times in the last 3 years, somewhere around there.
And the incumbents would dispute that, and that's been a real flashpoint in our conversation with them. They took issue with that, but their Democratic opponents They
have
are
been hammering
ringing
that
that
message
bell
hard.
every
yes.
time they get a chance.
And folks, regardless of the mood of the electorate is we're tired of inflation. We're tired of our bills being high. So that's not good for the incumbents.
And that's on both sides of the aisle.
But I think that probably has more to do with policy at the federal level than it does with the PSC, but that's a debate for another time.
Maybe right after.
Maybe right after
soon.
this, we're going to talk about it. We're here all night, and you bring up a good point. But let's take a pause right now because we are continuing to follow some breaking news for those of you at home. Let's take a look at this. This is up in Louisville, Kentucky. You can see the images there. UPS cargo plane crashed about 2 hours ago during takeoff from Muhammad Ali International Airport en route to Honolulu. Here is what we know at this hour. 3 people were on board. That crash causing a massive fire. You're seeing the images right there, sending thick black smoke into the sky. Officials tell us 280,000 gallons of fuel were on board. A shelter-in-place order is in effect. The FAA and NTSB is investigating, but once again, this was a UPS plane, a cargo plane, not a passenger plane. At least 3 people on board. We're going to stay on top of this for you and bring you the latest as we get it.
Our election night results and our coverage of them, that continues. And you can text a number to your screen right now to get information to you. That number is results. Text results to the phone number on your screen to get live results straight to your phone. We will be right back with much more right after this. Well, welcome back into our special live streaming coverage of election results right here in Georgia. And they are continuing to come in, Faith.
That's right. We're starting to see the first numbers. A lot of those numbers coming in from early voting that ran at a period that ended on October 31st. Halloween. Maybe some people went and voted in costume. I'm sure some of you all were out there. We are here with our panel, but before we get back to our panelists, we want to head out to Gilad Malamed, who is covering the PSC race, the only statewide races on this ballot up in Milton. Gilad, we hear that you also have an interview waiting to speak to us, but first, can you give us an idea of what you're seeing on the ground right there?
Yeah, Faith, we're here in Milton at the District 3 Republican incumbent watch party for Fitz Johnson. This is one of the 2 PSC races on the ballot, statewide races. And I'm here with Johnson's campaign spokesperson, Brian Robinson. Thank you so much for joining us. Early in the evening still, it looks like 45 precincts out of the 159 are reporting so far. What are you thinking of the early numbers showing right now, Mr. Johnson, at 36%? What are you thinking as these early numbers come in?
Look, we're looking at the whole statewide turnout, and we are feeling really optimistic, much more so than we were on Friday, actually, because we've seen over 900,000 voters come out. Republicans had to make up about 80,000 votes, but we knew that on Friday. We knew that was a big gap. So the fact that we have such a big number and Republicans are election day voters much more so than Democrats are, that certainly opens up a pathway for Fitz and for Tim Echols to really make a go at this. You could see them closing the gap. What you're seeing early are a lot of these early votes that have already been banked. We knew that was going to be heavily Democrat, so that's not shocking at all. So once you start seeing some election day stuff come in, you need to see the Republicans making a move there. And look, we don't know what those votes are, but we have a chance. And I think the Democrats thought this thing was over on Friday when they had such strong numbers at the end of early voting. And now it's anybody's game.
You mentioned these numbers. This is a race that is getting so much attention this year. Of course, PSC, an important job, but it doesn't always get this kind of attention. Is that something you use to kind of motivate voters, or how did that play into the campaign strategy leading up to Election Day?
You're very right. It's not something that people normally talk about because this is always kind of further down the ballot underneath the high-profile races like governor or U.S. Senate, etc. So for this to be the top of the ballot statewide is highly unusual, and it's certainly brought to the fore one of the biggest issues for voters right now, which is affordability. And of course, the Public Service Commission has some regulatory powers over power bills. So we're seeing that affordability argument play out, both sides making the argument that they're best for affordability. Of course, we on the Republican side believe that Democrats' Green New Deal mandates are going to make your cost soar and make reliability go down. And we have below national average energy prices in Georgia and a reliable grid. We think Republican leadership has worked and kept consumer prices low.
If Republicans do hold all the 5 seats on PSC, what does Fitz Johnson plan to do for people who say, my power bill is too high? We've seen it raised a couple of times in recent years.
Certainly. I think across the globe, we've seen energy prices go up. Georgia's not an outlier, and that's something that's important to realize here. Look at the relative standard. We're doing about as well as anybody else as far as price goes. But Fitz Johnson voted to freeze your power rates for the next 3 years. They're making the large users, like data centers, pay up front. And that is giving us the cash flow so that families and businesses aren't funding the expansions needed for these big, large load users. So the main thing Fitz Johnson's going to do is make sure that for the next 3 years, that contract, that agreement is held. Your rates will not go up. Georgia families are going to have some stability and some predictability in their energy bills.
Thank you so much. Really appreciate it. And I'm sure we'll continue to talk to you for the rest of the evening as we watch these results come in. Guys, of course, we are also watching the Democrat in this race, Peter Hubbard. We have eyes on watch parties across the state, and we'll keep you updated throughout the evening as these results come in.
Galat, thank you very much. Let's return now to our panel of political experts. Spiro Amburn, you're a Republican strategist, and just before we went to break, just before we heard from Brian Robinson there, you were talking about the impact of the national political situation on the state level races, and you heard Brian Robinson allude to it a little bit there too. He talked about the issue of affordability, and in his interview he said, this is anybody's game right now. How does the national conversation color the way that statewide campaigns conduct their business?
Well, the word inflation was brought up earlier, so I think for inflation, we have the Biden administration to thank for that. 4 years of policies that created, a situation where gas prices, food prices, your everyday, what families have to pay for have increased. Certainly power is part of that, but, the national energy policy in a lot of ways dictates what happens at the states. However, in Georgia, I agree with Brian. We have a history of managing our state's power grid in a responsible way. Certainly Georgia Power, is regulated by the PSC, but the PSC did put a freeze on rates for 3 years, as Brian said, and our rates are below the national average. So from that standpoint, when you look at where we are compared to other states, we're in a much better position, which helps with economic development and affordability for families.
And this is, Spiro, this is the message that we've heard from these Republican incumbents in this race. Val, Democrats have been sharing a very different message, a very different view on the state of this race and the stakes for voters.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I mean, I think the Democrats, what they've been doing this election cycle is trying to tap into the anger that folks are feeling, the hurt that people are feeling. Their bills are going up, the groceries are getting more expensive.
Val, I don't mean to cut you off, but I think
Yeah.
I just have to point this out because that sounds an awful lot like the exact strategy that the Trump campaign ran in last cycle. I mean, this is almost the inverse of the same strategy here.
It's all a circle at some point, right? But no, I mean, like, look, I think 4 years ago when the Trump or not 4 years ago, the last election when the Trump campaign was talking about these kind of issues, I think the way that people perceived it was, oh, I'm going to get automatic relief. We all know that government doesn't work that way, right? But unfortunately, people are still hurting. And so now you have somebody else coming to say, you guys are hurting, let us try to help you. You know, people are going to vote. Voting is very emotional.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I mean, a lot of the campaigns, I mean, correct me if I'm wrong, but I feel like you all typically try to put that messaging to pull on that emotion that drives people to actually get out and vote.
And if I could add, I mean, I tend to agree from the standpoint of politics is what have you done for me lately? And when you're the incumbent and when you're the party in power, you inherit whatever problems, you own those problems.
Right.
So that's the situation where we're in. All of a sudden now we have elections this year, we're going to have elections next year. You know, everybody's going to play the blame game, but typically if you're the party in power, you're going to be playing defense regardless.
Of course, and Chauncey,
So-
keep in mind here too, I mean, we're in the midst of a government shutdown. It's about to be the longest government shutdown ever tomorrow. And according to polls, I mean, NBC News just did a poll, AJC did a poll. Although people will say, okay, yes, I'm a Democrat, I am a Republican, the confidence in the parties is low on both sides right now.
Yeah, I was going to say that I think the real story of this election cycle and in recent year cycles is establishment versus populism. And we're seeing folks who are basically just tired of politics as usual in Washington and at the state level. And they're looking for folks who are going to bring some kind of grassroots energy. And they haven't seen that. Looking at the presidential cycle, Trump has been the populist candidate on the right. Joe Biden was seen more as the establishment candidate. And here in Georgia, you're seeing that same kind of energy directed specifically as the issues of affordability. And that's why this race is so pivotal.
And we were just seeing some polling from NBC News on the national scene. I think we have some recent polling from the Atlanta Journal-Constitution as well that might be worth bringing up here. Let's take a look at this. We have it up on the screen here. You should be seeing it. Here is what it says. This is the most important issue facing Georgia. These were Democratic likely primary voters standing up to Donald Trump, and MAGA was 20% of folks' most important priority. 16% then. Right in second place is inflation. And then you see economy and jobs, healthcare and gun violence. I think it's important to note, you could make a pretty easy case that inflation, cost of living, economy and jobs are all very similar topics. And if you group them together, that's by far the number one issue. It's going to be about 30% of voters. Those are Democratic primary voters. Let's take a look at the Republican side of things from this poll here. And again, right at the top of the list, you see inflation, cost of living, economy, jobs, and then immigration, crime, and public safety and taxes round out the list. But it does not take a political expert, though thankfully we have many of them right here on the panel. It doesn't take an expert to see that wallet, pocketbook, economic issues, those are the big drivers.
And just a note on that survey, didn't mean to cut you off.
No.
The Republicans were obviously not offered that first choice of if Donald Trump is good for the country
good
or not.
point.
So if that question wasn't there, and AJC did point that out as well, but if that question wasn't there, I say that to say inflation would be at the top as well.
You got to imagine if they were asked, the answer would probably be not many people, although you never know. You never know. Chauncey, I want to ask you, we've been talking a lot about these statewide races. We've talked about the national landscape. But the one through line in 43 minutes and counting now of live election coverage has been the importance of the economy and affordability. In these municipal races, do voters tell you that that's what matters most to them as well? Even for things, I mean, Atlanta mayoral takes a lot of the oxygen, but there's Sandy Springs mayoral race, South Fulton, other municipalities too.
Absolutely. I think one of the key ones we're talking about this cycle is Mayor South Fulton.
Yeah.
And one of the top issues there is economic development. Folks who feel like the data centers have been this supposedly revenue driver for the city of South Fulton. They want to see more retail shops, more places for people to go and have a night out. They want to see more high earning jobs in their community.
And it's a fairly young city too. This is kind of a
2017.
20, not even, I mean, a 10-year experiment right now. So when you talk about economic development, that's got to be front of mind for voters there, Spiro.
That's a great point. You look back over the last decade now, 10, 15 years, city of Sandy Springs was created. Then we saw, a host of new cities come online.
There was that explosion
over the
of
last 10
cityhood
years, and
movements.
now they're starting to mature, kind of come into their own, have growing pains. And I think that's what you're seeing.
Val, what do you think? Do you agree?
Yeah, I agree.
Let's dwell here for a moment though, because I think everyone agrees here the economy is a big driver of people's vote. But I see a lot of TV commercials for campaigns and for candidates, and they talk about pocketbook issues, but they talk about a lot of other things too. I think about the statewide PSC races, and it's for a regulatory body that regulates utilities, but the race got pretty heated. It got pretty partisan at times. National flashpoint terminology was thrown around, accusations of trying to bring in the Green New Deal. One Republican raised, another Republican accused his opponent of his words being a, quote, DEI specialist. I think some voters may hear that, may see the tenor of these races and think, boy, that doesn't feel like a regulatory body, but it was. How did it get so ratcheted up, Val?
So I think we're kind of in an era where everything has been polarized at this point. I'm pretty sure if we were watching an election for like Dogcatcher, we would be listening to the same language at this point. I think things are just so divided at this point. I think that's what the voters, that's going to be one of the decisions that they're going to have to make. Are they willing to continue going down this path? And are they going to reject it and say, look, I'm just trying to build my family here. I'm trying to survive. Like, I don't want to hear this nonsense anymore. I want what's best for me now.
It's interesting that you say that too, because it just brings to mind you, we are looking at races here in Georgia. There are several races across the country, governor races in New Jersey and Virginia. There's a big Prop 50 on the ballot in California. And there was a recent interview with Governor Newsom and Kristen Welker. Her show obviously comes on before the Georgia vote every Sunday. And in that interview, she asked him, hey, why are you taking this approach to kind of mock Donald Trump's tweets when he's doing like the all caps and everything? Why are you doing it back at him? Michelle Obama said, when they go low, we go high. And in so many words, he said, well, Michelle Obama reformed what she said and said, well, we need to go high with strategy now. The game has changed. Is that kind of what we are seeing? Or are we going to get back to the old Obama handshake with, who was he debating at that time? Romney.
John McCain,
Was that John
and
McCain?
Mitt Romney. There
Mitt
were moments
Romney.
of real bipartisan agreement. Even in those, at the time, people thought, whoa, the 2008 presidential election, we've never seen anything as heated as this, 2012. And now I think a lot of people look back on those and think, what a quaint time.
Can we get back
politics.
to it? Can we get back to it? Or is it now strategy of strategically going high? As
You think about those wedge issues. Spiro, is that something that campaigns have to think about now?
I wish I could say we could go back, to that little more civil, debate. But with technology changes, it's just all about quickly getting your message, getting those sound bites, and getting the reactions. I frankly don't know how we go back in the other direction, but I sure hope we can get back to some semblance of civil debate. I think that would be good for both sides.
I think.
go ahead.
Oh,
Go
sorry.
ahead,
I was
Val.
going to say I agree with that. I think also what we're seeing is a kind of a breakdown in either communication and trust between the two parties, where it's no longer, okay, I'm going to do this, and then we have a gentleman's agreement that you're going to react this way. It's kind of every man for himself at this point.
I mean, and kind of leads me to my next point that I was going to ask Chauncey is just, it's becoming normalized, right? It's almost like a West Coast versus East Coast. Either you're with us or you're not. You're weak, you're strong. But there's still this distrust and dislike of both parties, right?
Well, yeah, I think the idea you know, when you have a situation with a regulatory body like the PSC, and folks are just looking at their bill, and regardless of what party they are, and saying it's up, I don't like that. The strategy behind that for the Republicans is to say, well, do you want a Democrat in charge of this? You know, this and everything, the baggage that comes along with the label of Democrat for a lot of Republican voters in Georgia. So you definitely seeing them trying to capitalize on that culture war stuff and the red team, blue team stuff.
Well, one difference I will say, and Spiro, I'll let you weigh in here. I just want to say something because I just thought it was really interesting. We did see a very prominent Republican endorse a Democrat in the New York City mayor's election. Donald Trump giving that endorsement to former Governor Cuomo. That's in New York. We're coming back to Georgia. Spiro, your thoughts?
New York politics is his own thing.
But people say that about Georgia politics now too a little bit.
And I think, you know, Donald Trump, you know, with the world is obviously a lot smaller. With the advent of social media, Trump obviously tapped into that, and he basically took New York-style politics and made it national. And I think that's where we are. But in regard to the parties, I mean, both parties are guilty of this. I mean, you have good people in both parties. You know, I've been a Republican all my life, you know, 30 years, and the old saying used to be Republicans eat their own young. We had a way of doing that. You know, but, you know, we've got to get back to being able to sit down, talk about our disagreements and work out things that are amicable.
Val, yeah, go ahead, and then I want to ask a question to everybody.
Yeah.
But you first.
So I'll also point out something very interesting that we're seeing is you're seeing candidates like Mamdani who are pulling in Republicans because of his genuineness. He is out there up front telling you what he believes in, what he's not giving you this, well, I support both, you know, X, Y, Z. He's not giving you the political speak. I think people want somebody who's going to be upfront and honest with them about what they believe in so that at least they know where it stands. And I mean, we'll even see our own Congresswoman, Marjorie Taylor Greene, who is coming out talking about how she's mad at the Republican Party and because they're not talking about the healthcare subsidies. So I do think that there is some sort of movement happening. I'm just not sure if it's at the top of the party that's
I think
happening.
people want that authenticity, and people might argue with me on it, but from our reporting, Donald Trump did that well in 2016. He kind of took off this cloak of politician. He wasn't a politician. He put on the hat and said, hey, I'm like you. Even though I grew up, you know, very wealthy, I'm like you. People saw that, and that it tugged on that emotion that we were talking about earlier, and people saw that authenticity of what they felt was Donald Trump.
I mean, looking back on that 2016 campaign, how many times did you hear the phrase, you know, he tells it like it is? So many times from voters across the political spectrum. And he earned a lot of converts of people who either were leaning Democrat or independents at the time, or just drew a lot of people into the political process who otherwise had not been engaged. We're having this conversation about the national level, local level, and kind of the interplay between the two. And we're talking about this deeply ingrained at this point partisanship at the national level of our politics. But we have municipal races on the ballot right now tonight. Chauncey, I wonder if in your reporting you see the closer you get to the ground, the more that partisanship washes away a little bit because you're so close to your voters, to your elected officials, that you kind of have to be a regular person because you're going to see them at Kroger.
Well, I think the more local you get, the more folks are focused. The party lines are not as critical, even though, yes, we're in Atlanta. It's a obviously predominantly Democratic area. But the through line through all of this, I believe, going all the way back to when Obama was running against Hillary Clinton and in 2008, is establishment versus anti-establishment. You're talking about Zohran Mamdani. The reason he's popular with folks in New York is because he's not a part of the establishment. They view Andrew Cuomo and Curtis Sliwa, obviously he's kind of a different figure, but Cuomo is viewed as the establishment guy, and he's getting endorsements from Donald Trump. That's not going to do well for him. Maybe it might help him get some of Sliwa's votes, which I think was the strategy behind that. But in a city that's been, predominantly Democrats, that's not really going to help him. And here in Georgia, it's a lot of folks who basically perceive that the folks who have been in Washington the longest are the biggest problem. And that's one of the reasons Trump was so popular. He promised to drain the swamp, and you see where we are now. So
I don't disagree with that. I mean, you've seen
last
that
word
on
to
the
you here,
Republican
Spiro, about
side,
15 seconds.
Republican side too. I mean, starting with Marjorie Taylor Greene, you see it in some special elections and some of these legislative races. I think the outsider mantra plays.
That was about 15 seconds exactly. Thank you, guys. We're going to have much more to track here as we continue to watch election night right here in Georgia. We are also tracking live images coming right now out of Louisville, Kentucky, where a large UPS cargo plane with 3 people on board crashed and exploded during takeoff at Muhammad Ali International Airport. You're seeing live images right now on your screen. Obviously, it is dark tonight. It happened about 5:15 this afternoon, that crash, and it ignited an enormous fire on the ground. The plane was headed to Honolulu, Hawaii. You can still see the glow from that fire right now in this live picture. The governor of Kentucky, Andy Beshear, he now says 3 people were killed, at least 11 others were hurt in this crash, and he added that both numbers are expected to rise. UPS's largest package handling facility, that is in Louisville, where the crash took place. The hub employs thousands of workers and has 300 daily flights and sorts more than 400,000 packages an hour. We are, of course, working to learn more information on this developing story. Stay with us for the very latest. And you can continue with us tonight. We're going to be tracking Georgia election results all night long, and you can follow along with us. You can text the word results to the phone number on your screen to get live results straight to your phone. Much more coming up next. We'll be right back. Well, welcome back in. It is 8 o'clock in Georgia. Polls are starting to close across the state. And our special election night coverage here on 11 Alive Plus. It is now 1 hour underway. We are well underway here. Thanks for joining us. I'm Zach Merchant.
And I'm Faith Jesse, and voting for the state here as well as here in Atlanta, that is now officially closed. We do have a team of reporters across Metro Atlanta as well as panelists here at 11 Alive ready to bring you the latest results as they come in as well as the latest analysis.
So this is a great point. Let's get you up to speed with the races we are following right now. We are tracking it minute by minute. Atlanta Mayor Andre Dickens, he faces three candidates: Helmut Domagowski, Kalima Jackson, and Eddie Meredith. Also a statewide race here now. The Public Service Commission District 2, Commissioner Tim Echols, he's a Republican. He faces Democratic challenger Alicia Johnson. And in the District 3 race in that PSC contest, Commissioner Fitz Johnson, the Republican, he faces Democrat Peter Hubbard. We're also tracking races here in Atlanta City Council, including maybe the most prominent right now on the ballot, Atlanta City Council President, Councilmember Marcy Collier Overstreet. She is facing Rohit Malhotra. In the city of South Fulton, Mayor Khalid Kobi Kamau, he faces a crowded field of contenders trying to unseat him. He is the incumbent there. We're going to be watching that race closely.
A big race to watch, and now we want to get straight to our panel. Our second round of panelists joining us tonight, Mark Roundtree. You know him, Republican strategist and pollster. He's also the founder of Landmark Communications and a veteran of Georgia campaigns and elections. Also, returning panelist, Democratic strategist Fred Hicks, the founder and president of the Hicks Evaluation Group, which has worked with hundreds of political campaigns for nearly 20 years. He was also a consultant for Mrs. Marcy Collier Overstreet, a candidate in the Atlanta City Council president race. Donnell Suggs, editor-in-chief at the Atlanta Voice. He's written for, among others, the Atlanta Business Chronicle, Atlanta Magazine, and ESPN's The Undefeated. All returning panelists. Gentlemen, thank you so much for being here with us. Round two of the panel, so you guys got some big shoes to fill, but we have no doubt that you could do it. I want to start just kind of going down the line here. It's 8 o'clock. What are you watching for right now, Mark?
Well, I mean, the one-on-one stuff is going to be the PSC seats, but not just the overall numbers. It's like, what is left? And right now, we've got Fulton, DeKalb, and Gwinnett are all still out, and that is a Democrat tsunami. Those are the base, that with Clayton County are the base Democrat counties for the state of Georgia. So we could be looking at this race continuing to tighten until those counties come in. Statistically speaking, it's probably going to be a big win for the Democrats when it's said and done.
We're about to see some fresh results on that race, guys. A quick intro to both of you here, though. Fred, what is top of mind for you that you're watching for tonight?
So just to piggyback on what Mark said, I'm actually looking at the vote difference between the Democrats and Republicans. Remember, we've said it on here before, there's about 114,000 vote difference between Democrats and Republicans since COVID across all the general elections. So if Democrats can surpass that vote total today, to me that shows that Georgia is indeed a toss-up state that actually leans a little blue.
Well, talking about results here, we just got some new information just a minute from our control room here. We can report this now because we're covering races here in Georgia, but there's also national races happening. Just moments ago, the Associated Press called the Virginia governor's race for Abigail Spanberger. Again, the Associated Press now calling just a few minutes after 8 o'clock tonight the Virginia governor's race for Abigail Spanberger. She is the Democrat in that race. Donnell, you're looking at this, and it looks like you're thinking some thoughts here. What does that mean for the state of the race nationally and what's happening right here in Georgia?
I feel like that's not the only upset that's going to take place tonight around the country, and in Georgia in particular. Atlanta City Council race is one that we've been looking at a lot, and we've got a local, homegrown versus someone who's got a really, really interesting mission and has been picking up a lot of votes, or at least a lot of attention lately. So I'll be looking at that for tonight.
And Donna, we are seeing some images of Abigail Spanberger now, just moments ago called winner of the Virginia gubernatorial contest. And you put your finger right on it. There's this national and local and municipal interplay happening between all of these races. Mark, I want to bring you in just a moment, but if we can, let's take a look at some brand new fresh results from the Public Service Commission race. If we can punch these up on the screen. Yeah, let's take a look right here. This is the District 2 and District 3 race. We'll start with District 3. Peter Hubbard, the Democrat, at about 54% of the votes currently tallied to Fitz Johnson, the Republican incumbent's 46%.
A lot different than what we saw about an hour ago.
We're seeing that margin shrink down, Faith.
Yep.
But
Mark?
Fulton, DeKalb, and Gwinnett are still out. Now, if there was a low turnout there, it can be sustained. it's not likely because Fulton, of course, with DeKalb also has the Atlanta election going on. I would watch in particular for county in Middle Georgia and Milledgeville area, Baldwin County. That is always the go-to county for the state of Georgia because it often just emulates virtually the exact number of the statewide count. That county is a bellwether county for the state, and tonight it's showing a 58-42 at the moment for the Democrats.
And these numbers still coming in only 8 o'clock. So as we continue to monitor those results, we will bring them to you. But one person who's actually monitoring them on the ground is 11 Alive's Galat Mohammed, joining us live from Milton, covering the PSC races for us. Galat, what are you seeing right now? What is the mood right now?
They're closely monitoring the results, of course, here at Republican incumbent Fitz Johnson's Watch Party. He's the District 3 incumbent. I spoke to his campaign spokesperson a little while ago as the very early numbers started to come in, and he said that they're feeling more optimistic today than when early voting closed, noting that Republicans typically are more day of election voters than early voting. Right now, the commission is held by 5 Republicans. They have all 5 of those seats. Those Democratic challengers, though, are looking to change that. In District 2, we have Republican incumbent Tim Echols facing off against challenger Alicia Johnson. And in District 3, where we are, Republican incumbent Fitz Johnson is facing Democrat Peter Hubbard. Both of these are statewide seats. And this race has been getting so much attention this year because power bills are really top of mind for voters. For the more than 2 million Georgians who rely on Georgia Power, they've seen their bills increase 6 times in recent years. The Associated Press reports this is due to higher natural gas costs and construction projects. Republicans note, though, that the commission enacted a 3-year freeze on base rates in July. A key issue in this race is also data centers and what impact that will or will not have on people's power bills. While we are here at this watch party in Milton, we're also tracking the results in both the District 2 and 3 races and monitoring watch parties in those areas as well. We'll keep you posted as these results continue to come in, guys.
All right, Galat Mohammed live for us up there in Milton. Thank you so much for bringing us a look from the field there. Guys, I want to get your thoughts on this PSC race, just because, you know, in any other year, this would be something that is a down ballot race, but now this is the top of the ticket. Every person that went out to the election, and we know that this is typically a low turnout election, but everyone who went out there, they saw that at the top of their ballot. Why put so much time into this race, at least when you're coming from a strategic point of view, looking ahead to the midterm?
It's mostly, it is just media talking points for going forward. This race, it does not give the Democrats a majority of the Public Service Commission. It gives them a shot to take one of the seats next year, which would give them the majority. But this is more just for claiming momentum going forward. The reality is, though, that these are Public Service Commission seats, and they have virtually no public identity. The public does not really understand what this office does. And so, I mean, I know
hopefully
that
if they watch the Georgia vote, they'll know.
If they do. The Republicans, if they win, are going to claim it's the biggest seat in history, and now it's the time for the Democrats to claim the same. But in reality, this is completely disconnected from the Trump administration and the rest. These election results are much more localized in Georgia.
I bet, Fred, as a Democrat, you might have a different perspective on that.
Well, indeed. So I think, first of all, how do we get to this point? This is the result of Republican intransigence and refusing to allow people to vote on this, on the one hand, and the result of groups like the Georgia Conservation Voters, GCV, their Action Fund, pushing legislation, or not legislation, but pushing litigation to get to this point. These are elections that should have happened before this year. And now as a result of that, we've seen groups, and I think if we talk about the local elections, we'll talk about this as well, third-party groups that have played a real role in this side, in a way, in this election and in the local elections. But I think, again, about groups like GCV, I saw ads on TV. I saw them be more active than we've seen before, because this is what we call a pocketbook race. Right. And so this is not just about a PSC election. This is organizations, these are campaigns and entities sharpening their tools and sharpening their knives and getting ready for 2026 to really try to take Georgia back.
And you talk about a pocketbook election. I mean, we don't want to diminish the role of the Public Service Commission. Regulating utilities is an important job. It impacts people's wallets and the bills that they see. But from a structural perspective on campaigns, Donnell, I wonder if you might agree with what Fred, and I think Mark is saying a little bit too, that this is at least a chance for both the Republican and the Democratic apparatus in Georgia to road test where they are structurally, what messages are working, and get a little bit of preview of maybe what's working and what's not headed into the midterms.
To directly piggyback on what Fred said, I've got a 77-year-old mother-in-law. who follows politics like anyone else does, kind of sort of in and out, in and out. She's really into the PSC race because of the fact that it's a pocketbook race, like you said, and it's something that she has direct influence. It has a direct influence on her the way she lives, and she feels like it's even more important than who's the mayor of Atlanta. She doesn't want her bill to go up, so she's really interested in this. For the first time ever, we've had conversations about the Public Service Commissioner in District 2, which is like not our normal conversation.
Yeah, it's really interesting to take a look at there. We're going to put a pause on that right now because we did just get information from our producers and online that we do have some new numbers in right now for the City of Atlanta mayor's race. Numbers that a lot of analysts and these are really kind of expected right now. The incumbent mayor, Andre Dickens, looking for a second term. He has not had, I would say, much backlash from the voting public. He did have some issues with people deciding or having thoughts about his decision on Cop City. But among that, he says that in his next term that he really wants to focus on affordable housing. And right now he is at 86% of the vote with his three competitors all below 10% here. 11 Live's Joe Ripley joining us live right now at the Hyatt Regency in downtown where Mayor Dickens' campaign is there. He is expected to give remarks later this evening if that race is called for him. Joe, can you give us just a vantage point, a vibe check, if you will, of what you're seeing right now in downtown?
Vibe check, Faith. The vibes are very high here at the Hyatt Regency in downtown Atlanta, where Mayor Andre Dickens' watch party is well underway. A pretty significant turnout here, and that also equates to what we're seeing at the ballot box. Those latest numbers that you mentioned, the mayor pulling already 86%, with some of those polling places reporting. We do have a guest we want to introduce to you. This is former Lieutenant Governor Jeff Duncan, who is also on the ballot for the 2026 gubernatorial race. At least that is his aim. You got to get through a primary first, but former Lieutenant Governor Duncan, what brings you here in support of Mayor Andre Dickens?
Well, I'm here to support Mayor Dickens. This whole room is going to continue to fill up. Andre Dickens has done an incredible job for Atlanta. The city that we live in today is not the city that he inherited 4 years ago. He's worked hard. He's worked with the community. He's built consensus around tough issues. To see what he's doing with affordable housing and economic development, public education, and public safety is outstanding, and I think it's exactly what folks voted for 4 years ago.
4 years ago, we know a lot can change. 4 years ago, you had an R next to your name. You were a Republican. You have now switched parties as a Democrat. You talked about that consensus, the coalition building. What can you take maybe from a campaign of Mayor Dickens and use towards your own campaign?
I think you need to just focus on the issues that matter the most to Georgians, right? And that's what I'm certainly doing in my campaign. Most Georgians wake up worried about three things: the affordability crisis, the healthcare crisis, and the Donald Trump crisis. And I'm going to focus on those. I think Democrats in Georgia are wired differently than Democrats on the national stage. And I think we've seen that play out in the last few election cycles. Democrats just want, and I think a majority of Georgians just want their governor to focus on their issues, and that's what I plan to do.
We've seen a gubernatorial shakeup in Virginia already tonight with a Democrat in that race winning. That was just announced moments ago. Now you are vying to become governor of Georgia next year. But getting back to this mayoral race, what do you think that voters can really resonate with when it comes to Mayor Dickens and what he's done for the city and his vision for the next 4 years?
Well, I think that's exactly what you said, vision. He's got vision. He's not complaining about what he inherited. He's not complaining about just the problems. He's casting a vision forward that people believe in. They trust him. In a day and age where folks just don't trust politicians, and they shouldn't. Most of them just lie on the campaign trail or tell people what they want to hear to win an election, but then they show up in the job ineffective and without the ability to actually do the things they said they wanted to do. Andre Dickens made a lot of promises, and he's been able to follow through on those promises. That should be what all voters expect from their elected leaders.
All right, that is former Lieutenant Governor Jeff Duncan, who's vying to be governor of Georgia next year, here in support of Mayor Andre Dickens, who hopes to win a second term as Atlanta's mayor. We'll send things back to you all for now.
That's our Joe Ripley there with a very interesting interview with former Lieutenant Governor Jeff Duncan. He was a Republican then. He's a Democrat now. He's running for governor. We're going to bring in our panel in just a little bit to discuss that. But first, we want to bring you the very latest with some results out of the mayor's race in South Fulton. And there's so many candidates running that you actually can't even see all of them on this graphic. I believe there are 9 people running in this race, but this is an early look at the results. In the lead, Carmelita Gumbs with about 42% of the vote. Then Bill Edwards, a former mayor, running to become mayor again, Mark Baker at about 16%, Joseph Adeyemi at 6.9%. This is very early, though. We see the leader with about 42% of the vote. It's still only about, 5,900 votes. We expect many more votes to come in.
But notably, one person not on the list yet.
Not yet. It's current incumbent mayor Khalid Kamau in, I believe, 6th place at this early juncture, 8:15 p.m. here tonight.
All right. Well, we are going to stay on top of these numbers for you, but first, we do have some breaking news that we want to get to right now. The latest on that UPS cargo plane that crashed at the Louisville airport. In the last 30 minutes, we just learned that at least 3 people were killed in this crash, 11 people hurt in the crash, and fire sparked. You're taking a look at some of those images right there. Kentucky Governor Andy Beshear saying that those numbers are expected to rise. That plane was headed to Honolulu and had more than 250,000 gallons of fuel on board when it went down. We're hearing that something happened during takeoff as it was headed to Honolulu. The NTSB heading to the scene right now. The NTSB will take the lead on this investigation. We are gathering more information and will bring you the latest updates when we get them. Once again, this is in Louisville, Kentucky, a UPS cargo plane crash. Stay with us. We'll be right back.
Welcome back in here to our continuing live coverage of Election Night 2025 right here in Georgia. And you hear our panel here because they have got a lot to say, and we have people who are worth listening to, guys. We want to bring you in right now with some new information on the statewide Public Service Commission race. The Decision Desk HQ is calling the District 3 race for Democrat Peter Hubbard. Now, we want to be clear, that's Decision Desk HQ. That's not the Associated Press. It's not NBC News. But we bring it up because it is an indicator, as Mark, you were saying earlier, of a lot of Democratic momentum here tonight. We'll be watching to see how that continues to unfold. But Mark, this early result and this early call by Decision Desk HQ, does that track with what you were expecting?
Yeah, I mean, I think going into tonight, all of the races that are the significant races tonight, whether it's New York City, New Jersey, Virginia, our PSC races, those 4 that we would watch from a Georgia point of view, they're all basically leaning Democrat or Republican, can sometimes pick one off here and there, but these are basically blue state, or in this case of Atlanta, a blue city type of election. And as far as Georgia in particular goes, actually the only one that I'm really watching left that a Republican could win is the Attorney General of Virginia, and that is a 51-49 race right now. probably will be won by the Democrats as well.
And we're going to be continuing to watch to see what results are coming out of Virginia in that race, because we know that the Virginia gubernatorial has been called for the Democrat, Abigail Spanberger. Now the AP has called that. And we're getting some breaking news here, guys. Hang on one second. We can now confirm, this is confirmed, guys? There it is. All right, we're going to pull this up on the screen, but we now have confirmed that the Associated Press is calling the Atlanta mayoral race. The Associated Press has now officially called the Atlanta mayoral race for incumbent Andre Dickens. Our political strategist on the panel here and our resident journalist.
Water is
Take
wet.
a stand.
Yeah.
Initial thoughts, guys. Initial thoughts right here.
Donnell, let's start with you. I think you used the phrase, water is wet. You
Water
don't seem
is
particularly
wet,
surprised by this result.
And days end in Y.
Not surprised.
You were on the mayoral panel with us. That was the panel that
Yes.
Mayor Dickens decided not to come to. We're hearing because he did not think that he needed to be there. 3 people that were fighting for this seat still got some of the vote, as we could see there.
We did.
But I mean, even just from laying the scene there, as I was saying at the beginning of the show, he's not a hated mayor.
He's not.
People like him.
Right.
They want to see what he can do for
There
a
are
second term.
pockets that don't like Dickens. Pockets. And pockets don't win elections. Pockets give votes to other people who aren't necessarily experienced in becoming mayor.
Those
but they
pockets,
don't win mayors.
the pothole pocket, the Cop City pocket.
The Cop City pocket, the we just hate mayor's pocket.
Yeah.
That doesn't work.
Fred, let's bring you in. You're a Democratic strategist. Look, I don't think many people are surprised to see this race officially called for Mayor Dickens, but we're also seeing some strong indicators for, hang on for that 1 second, but this is what happens. We got a lot going on here. Fred, what do you make of the state of play for Democrats right now? Is this a situation where Democrats are starting to think, we've got a little momentum right now?
Listen, I think the biggest obstacle to Democrats winning in 2026 is the belief that we can win in 2026. Because the data, again, I keep coming back to the numbers, the data indicates that Georgia's been a straight toss-up state and that the Democrats have won when we put forth good campaigns and good candidates. But Democrats entered 2025 after Kamala Harris's loss last year, particularly in Georgia, feeling very defeated and deflated. So these PSC wins are big. Mayor Dickens' wins is also big because even though mayors always get reelected when they run for reelection, for Mayor Dickens, when you have a turnout this size today, right, which is much bigger than you would have expected for a normal sort of re-election type of campaign, for him to hold those kinds of numbers, given all the noise that people made around Cop City and all the noise that people made on other things, this is big for him. And I think this is also the beginning, we're starting to see the beginning of the contours of the 26th Democratic primary and the messaging and the kind of candidates that we'll run in 2026.
And I think that messaging is so important too, Mark. I want to bring you in here on this. I mean, obviously, Mayor Dickens, he's going to be a prominent voice come midterms next year. How much weight would you say that his voice holds when we're talking about that coveted Senate race as well as a governor's race that we're going to see next year?
I don't know how many swing voters would necessarily focus on what the mayor of Atlanta in terms of the state of Georgia. I don't know how many people would really be swayed who are undecided, but where his bully pulpit can be more powerful is helping to get behind and raise awareness for some of the troops that are on the ground that are already predisposed to vote for a Democrat. He probably is one of the, if not the most popular of the Democrats now that I think in the state. I don't think he's regarded as partisan as perhaps some of his predecessors either. I think he does have sort of a more moderate reputation and approach to things. I do want to just playfully point out that a couple weeks ago on the show, Fred, I had said I don't think he'll get 90%. And you said 90. I just want to point it out.
Did I say 90?
I don't think all the numbers are in yet. He might hit 90. The race is close.
We still have some votes to be tallied. We're looking at 86% here. Guys, I want to table this for just a moment because I want to get out now live to 11 Alive's Joe Ripley. He is standing by with former Atlanta Mayor Shirley Franklin. Joe, what is she telling you tonight?
Yeah, so good evening, Zach. As you mentioned, AP has called the race down for Atlanta Mayor Andre Dickens to win a second term. I want to introduce you to someone who is used to being mayor of Atlanta. This is former Mayor Shirley Franklin. Mayor, AP has called the race for Mayor Dickens, as we understand it. Your reaction tonight?
Well, that's pretty great. Great re-election. He had a great 4 years, and he'll do well in the next 4 years.
What is it that has impressed you about the way Mayor Dickens has run the city and run his reelection campaign?
Well, Mayor Dickens actually believes in people. He believes in everybody being involved. He talks about this as a group project, and indeed, elections are a group project. So big congratulations to him and his team.
He had to face 3 challengers, although he was pretty popular. Are you surprised that this didn't go to a runoff, that he seemingly won pretty handily tonight?
Oh, I'm not surprised at all. I'm not surprised that Atlanta was ready for a second term.
And so with a World Cup coming next year, the mayor also has plans to build out MARTA, make that a little more accessible, make housing more affordable. A lot on his plate. Where do you see Mayor Dickens in the long lineage of Atlanta mayors? And how do you, maybe it's a little early, but compare his legacy to those who came before him?
Well, certainly Atlanta has a long legacy of mayors going back to Hartsville, Ivan Allen, Sam Massell, Maynard Jackson, Andrew Young. I mean, those are just icons among mayors. But Atlanta has a great future if we all pull together and we solve whatever problems we have and take advantage of all of the opportunities, including the World Cup.
What is your advice then for second term, newly reelected Mayor Andre Dickens?
Well, my advice is to keep up the good work. Don't get distracted. Keep your eye on the ball. Include as many people as you can, and continue to lead the city forward.
That is former Atlanta Mayor Shirley Franklin with some wise words for Mayor Andre Dickens, now newly reelected to a second term. As you can, thank you for bearing with me with all the noise here behind me. It's a significant turnout here at the watch party here in downtown Atlanta at the Hyatt Regency. We're also closely watching the Atlanta City Council president's race. We will bring more info to you once we learn more on that. But for now, we'll send things back to you in the studio with AP now calling the race. Atlanta Mayor Andre Dickens has been elected for 4 more years.
All right, Joe Ripley there. Thank you very much, Joe, with former Atlanta Mayor Shirley Franklin. Let's bring the panel back in right now. Donnell, you see somebody like former Atlanta Mayor Shirley Franklin there. We saw former Republican Lieutenant Governor Jeff Duncan earlier at that same watch party. He's now a Democrat running for governor. Andre Dickens, he's going to get 4 more years in City Hall. You cover municipal politics.
Yes.
What does the next 4 years after that look like for Andre Dickens? Is he somebody who could be eyeing a run for higher office?
And to keep the 8 years in Atlanta and have all the development of, I wouldn't say affordable housing, but housing and all the positive things that he's doing, I mean, there's a really good chance for him to try to make a bigger play. And he had to win this, and I didn't see how he could lose it. But the fact that he's winning it by a large margin says a lot about the fact that he gets a lot of support from the power players in the city.
And of course, this would be his second term in office.
That's right.
He has said that he wants to tackle affordable housing. Previously, he's been really big and focused on the youth. And while he's gotten majority of support, there's not, Atlanta isn't without its issues, is what I will say, is the best way to say it. People still have their complaints. Fred, what do you see as his biggest challenge to really kind of leave that legacy, as Mayor Franklin was saying?
Really being laser focused and having a clear agenda and publicly documenting their progress on it. You know, affordability is the #1 issue for Atlantans, and one of the top issues for Georgians across the board. 4 years ago when he was elected and during COVID, it was public safety. They tackled that. The homicide rate is down, the violent crime rate is down, all those things. The crime numbers look good, although there's still crime, but the crime numbers look good. So now it's about doing this. He has a goal of, I think it was about 30,000 affordable housing units by 2030, and or 20,000, I'm sorry, by 2030, and they're making significant progress towards that. So affordability. I want to say one thing. We talk about the next 4 years for Andre Dickens, but if someone, say, Senator Warnock, were to step into the presidential race in 2028, then this kind of a win and the amount of money that Andre Dickens or Mayor Dickens raised in this election and these numbers would put him at the top of anyone's list for any statewide opening that happens to come open before his 4 years are up.
That could be a big jump if he's ready to do that. And I mean, we're still very, very far away from that. I do want to bring up one race that Joe Ripley mentioned, in-house there at the Hyatt Regency, somebody that Mayor Dickens is backing. Marcy Collier Overstreet, she is right now in the lead of this race for Atlanta City Council president, of course, a former council member, and running against her, Rohit Malhotra, activist. He has never held political office, but he has kind of been viewed through the progressive lens on how he would like to run the city, especially with public safety. Once again, there's a lot of early numbers coming in, as well as some of those totals. The race is not extremely close right now, though. Mark, want to weigh in on this one?
I don't know enough about this district. I know that Malhotra made an effort to do outreach to Republicans. He spoke at a Young Republicans event. I don't know that Overstreet did that. I'm not. You might know. I don't.
We do must disclose that Fred did work on the campaign, so we have to
Overstreet.
go with it a little grain of salt on that campaign.
But I think there was an aggressive attempt by Malhotra to try to expand beyond focusing on just.
And I guess I
Democrats.
could ask you this too, just like broader picture, specifically looking at this race. The last panel we kind of talked about this establishment versus the outsider, right? Malhotra in this race kind of seen as that outsider. Overstreet seen as the establishment. Are we going to see more matchups like this? And if Malhotra, if he does come out on top, what does that speak to just the broader politics of Georgia?
Well, I think that's almost by definition what you see in Georgia so often now at all levels. I think Republicans have pretty securely won the statewide offices, and at this point it's the Democrats that are pretty constantly trying to present themselves as the outsiders. I do always get kind of a kick when I'm watching some of the TV ads for the Republicans running for U.S. Senate, and you have one of them, Derek Dooley, who will come out and say he's the outsider. I do kind of find that kind of funny. But
why do you find that funny?
Well, for one, it's the same thing that David Perdue, Loeffler, and a lot of the other Republicans that lost have campaigned on. It's using the same font on television, using the same message. It doesn't seem to be working within Republican primary efforts.
Did Donald Trump campaign, though, in 2016 as kind of like an outsider?
He did, and that was sort of when it was originally done, and Perdue did it in 2014, in fact, when it was originally done. But it hasn't worked in Republican primaries as well in the last few years.
Okay.
Fred, let's bring you in on this, and let's talk about the statewide races a little bit here. The PSC races, District 2, District 3, we've been tracking this trend line throughout the evening that you and Mark have been laying out for us. It seems that early results, early tallies, that Democrats seem to be trending in a direction that they like in these two statewide races. Yeah. The Democrats are telling us this. The DNC and the Democratic Party of Georgia, they are now declaring victory in both of these PSC races. Yeah.
And it's still not tight, looking at these numbers right
These
here.
margins, and actually they've moved a little bit since we last checked in the Democrats' direction here. Yeah. Now, to be clear, the DNC, the Democratic Party of Georgia, they don't call races. But it is unusual to see an institutional organization come out and declare victory unless they feel some level of confidence that that is going to be where things ultimately end up. We're putting some big asterisks here. We're not calling these races. But Fred, how are Democrats feeling right now?
Oh, I think we're feeling really excited about this. I mean, this is one, Republicans will say tomorrow morning or late tonight that, well, Democrats are supposed to win that. And I'm going to push back against that because every election stands on its own merits. And so, yes, we have municipal elections across the state, but let's be clear, the Republicans did everything they could to win this race and to make it close. Governor Kemp put himself out there. Republicans descended from D.C. And to Georgia, and most of the candidates running for office next year, many of the candidates, I shouldn't say most, went out there and tried to whip up Republican votes to get this election at least tighter, if not over the hump.
And
so
Democrats,
Democrats
did the same thing too, right?
Well,
Fred, this
absolutely.
was an expensive race and a big one for everybody, right?
Absolutely, but to see this happen statewide, especially coming on the heels of the Senate District 21 race where we saw similar activities, right? And the Republicans were able to hold that seat 60-40 over Deborah Shigley and the Democrats. To see this go out, extrapolate this out statewide, this is big in terms of what Democrats, again, believe they can accomplish, and setting forth, a plan, a roadmap for 2026. It's big.
Especially in a statewide race, too. I mean, if they are successful here, that's going to be a huge talking point for all of these campaigns. But, I mean, it's going to be interesting to see. The numbers are still coming in, though, so we can't call anything right now.
And we are going to keep tracking that. Democrats definitely want to see this as a harbinger of what's to come in 2026. Republicans likely have a different story. We're going to be seeing how it all shakes out tonight and moving forward. We're going to take a quick break. We will be right back after the break with much more. Welcome back in. We are tracking live election results all night long, and let's get you to some very latest numbers coming out of the South Fulton mayoral contest. They're a very crowded field. The top four in this race right now: Carmelita Gumbs about 42% of the vote, Bill Edwards in second place, 19%. Mark Baker a close third there behind the second place Bill Edwards. Mark Baker's at 16.2%. Joseph Adeyemi is at 6.9%. These are still early vote totals. If you're looking at that graphic and thinking there is a prominent name who's not on there right now, that's the incumbent. Incumbent Mayor Khalid Kamau right now sitting at 6th place in this crowded mayoral race, still early. But I think this is a good time to bring in our political roundtable here. Guys, Mark, Fred, you're a veteran political strategist. You've been in the room with candidates on election night. Mark, if you're in the room with the incumbent mayor, Mayor Kamau in South Fulton, and I probably wouldn't be, you're a Republican strategist, but I want to ask you about this question. What's it like to be in the room? What conversations are happening when your candidate is maybe not off to a great start?
Not everybody wins. You would never know that talking to the 20 or so political consultants who run campaigns in the state. You'd think everybody won all the time. But sometimes they do lose. I have no idea who this mayor was working with. But you know, some people take it very personally, and they probably should. And some people take it almost like a lawyer who loses a case and they move on. And there are two different ways. There's two different mentalities to this. Some people, this is what it will be virtually installed on their the gravestone in their mind for the rest of their lives. I lost. And then other people, it's just something they move on from. The healthy people move on.
It's an emotional thing, though, right?
It is certainly emotion, right? And that's what drives people to the polls. Speaking of the South Fulton race specifically, I mean, when you get into the mud there, you're talking about a man who was able to beat out the incumbent mayor his first go-round in a runoff, but really had some headbutting with his council. One of his council members, Carmelita Gumbs, now leading the pack right now, trying to unseat him in that mayor's race. Not only that, I mean, he says, in our sit-down interview, Mayor Kobe, or known as Mayor Kamau, on the ballot, he said that he felt like all of this kind of back and forth was politically motivated. But at the end of the day, you have to look at what the voters are saying, and the numbers are showing what the voters are saying. Fred, I want to bring you in here just because of the politics of it all. The voters, the people, we heard a lot of the drama that was happening out of South Fulton. Yeah. How much does that weigh on what we're seeing right now?
Oh, I think it weighs significantly on that. Listen, anyone who lives in any city, whether it's South Fulton, it's Atlanta, or you live in like a county, you want to be proud of where you live. You do not want to see your elected officials in the news on 11 Alive, you know, or anything like that. You want, unless it's for something good. And unfortunately, people in South Fulton have had to live, well, I don't want to, well, no, they haven't felt really proud of their city's leadership over the last 4 years. And we talked about this the other day. When he ran last time against Bill Edwards, it was a generational shift. I mean, right. Khalid was one of the youngest mayors in Fulton County. I think Bill Edwards was one of the oldest mayors in Fulton County. And he's a Democratic socialist, and he had that sort of energy around it. But campaigning and governing are often two very different things. And so and voters have a very short leash. They're giving electors a very short leash around performance now. So.
Also important to note that if Carmelita does not get, Ms. Gumbs does not get over 50% of the vote, that race will go into a runoff.
And guys, I want to take us now to a live picture. That's Carmelita Gumbs. She is walking in to her watch party, and it looks like she's seeing the same results that we are seeing right now. Again, still early, but she looks like she is in a celebratory mood. This is the watch party here for Carmelita Gumbs. She's in South Fulton, and she is currently in the lead in this mayoral contest, a very crowded field. We're gonna stay on this picture and watch. I think we have audio here too. I think we can hear it now. Let's stay on this picture as she is likely approaching a podium. But as we're watching it here, and we're going to be quick because we may need to jump in and listen to her at the podium. But Donnell, you see this right now. The race has not been called yet, but you see this. She seems pretty confident. What is going through your mind as you watch this?
I think it's less about the numbers and more about the people she's running against, and including incumbent mayor. I think she's confident that there's not going to be a major shift in the numbers from where they are right now. So she's not celebrating a win. She's coming into her party, greeting her guests.
Right. and correct me if I'm wrong here, Fred, but it is unusual to see the candidate on election night until they're either feeling quite confident or they're ready to concede. This doesn't look like a concession.
It does not. Listen, and if they're going to concede, that usually comes after midnight, right? So they stay in the back of the room, tucked away, and when you feel really good about things, then you come out. If you don't, you send someone else out to talk to the crowd. So the fact that she's out there says that she knows she's at least in the runoff, and now they're playing to avoid a runoff. But as Faith mentioned, if you don't crack the 50+1 mark, then you have to go into a runoff, which will be in early December. But for her, this is a big night for the councilwoman.
And I would say that Councilwoman Gumbs, she's been one of Mayor Kobe's most vocal critics.
Yep.
She's not afraid to give an interview. She's not afraid to give a quote. And she felt his leadership was not best for South Fulton. She felt that him not being able to work with City Council was not best for South Fulton. So she has taken it upon herself to say, you know what, I believe that I can do this job better. And when we're talking about the issues that City Council faced with him, we're talking about financial issues, issues of spending, issues of obviously some legal issues that once again he felt were politically motivated here. But it seems like South Fulton is about to see a new era of leadership. Is that going to be Councilwoman Gumbs? Is that going to be somebody else potentially in a runoff? We don't know yet, but certainly a different era than what we've seen in the last couple of years.
And then, Mark, I can sense you want to jump in here, so jump in.
Interestingly, there is a South Fulton City Council District 4 where the incumbent is actually about, he may not go over the top, but J.C. Sebastian, I should say, would not necessarily go over the top, but 46% of the vote. So this isn't just a repudiation of all the incumbents. This is, at this point, kind of just a statement about the incumbent mayor, and maybe the mayor didn't run a very strong campaign. I hadn't really watched this that closely, but other incumbents are doing well.
That is interesting that you bring that up, and Mark, we can always count on you to do that because you know these numbers inside and out. But you're pointing to a little bit of a ticket split, it sounds like. I mean, in municipal races, and in any race, but in a municipal race, having that incumbent next to your name on the ballot, it has a lot of sticking power.
In District 6, the incumbent is winning there as well. I mean, the eye is not the death knell for politicians in South Fulton.
And Fred, I mean, to put a finer point under this, I mean, to see those results, see the results breaking in this way where it looks like people are going to cast a ballot, they're supporting some incumbents, but notably at this point not supporting the incumbent that leads that city. I mean, is that an early repudiation of his leadership by the South Fulton voters?
Well, I think it's yet another repudiation of his leadership. And South Fulton has been interesting since it, it's one of the youngest cities in Fulton County, if not the youngest. It became a city after the 2016 election cycle where they voted for it.
I mean, it hasn't even celebrated its 10-year birthday yet. I mean, it's still a young, growing,
and this is going to be his
city.
Potentially looks like it's going to be his third mayor, maybe his third different mayor if Bill Edwards, if there's a runoff and Bill Edwards does not win, because again, he was a mayor initially in South Fulton. But South Fulton voters have tinkered with the city council up and down the line at different over the elections, and so it's not surprising to see incumbents there. But they're a very attuned electorate down there to what's happening with their council.
I was going to say, if you ever go to a council meeting, you'll see people care.
They're there. They're active. They're loud. And so this is, I think, it's good for democracy, to be honest with you.
And guys, we are waiting literally by the second year. I am told, should be hearing from Councilwoman Carmelita Gumbs any moment now. As we are waiting, and the wait is over. That was a quick wait. We're going to go to our 11 Alive, Angelina Salcido. She is at that event. Angelina, what are you seeing?
Hey, you guys. So we are here with our South Fulton mayor candidate, Carmelita Gumbs. How are you feeling? Let's start there. You just walked into a crowd full of people. Your family, your friends are here, your supporters. How are you feeling?
The excitement and energy is real here in this building. So I'm excited to see all of the supporters come out. It has been a long 9 months that we've been on this campaign, but the voters are speaking that we're ready to move the city forward. So that's what I'm excited about right now.
Obviously, this race has not been called yet. Right now, you have about 42% of the vote. How are you feeling about that? Were you expecting it to go this way?
Actually, I did not expect it to go this way because it is such a crowded field. But what I am excited to see is that voters are really coming out and making change in the city of South Fulton. So to show that, you know, they want me to be their next leader, and it just is an amazing feeling. And that means it's time to move this city forward. And that's what I'm totally excited about.
Talk to me about what your day looked like. I know your campaign manager told me that you had to run home, you had to change, you had to come back here because you were out on the streets pounding the pavement today. What did that look like for you?
So it was going to all of the precincts and seeing the long lines. Even out till 7 o'clock, we had lines still wrapped around the building. So people still needed to see, you know, that I was out there in the community, letting them know how important it is for them to cast their vote and not get out of line. So that's why I was, you know, just campaigning. And I wanted people to see me because that's what I've normally done. And it's important to me to keep this city moving in this direction. Voting is important. It's our right.
You obviously have been working for District 2. You talked to me about the work that you have done in District 2 that you plan to do if you do end up winning the seat of mayor.
Well, District 2 has always had the lowest crime rate. We've done a lot of great things around making sure that people felt safe, and that's something that I want to cascade off to the rest of the city, whether it was gun buybacks, a neighborhood citywide watch program, those type of things. We want to make sure our city is safe. So that, focusing on anti-litter campaigns that are really strong, that really hold residents and people that are traveling through our city accountable. So it's a number of activities that we've done and been successful in District 2 that I want to make sure happens across the city. So that's what I'm looking for in leading the path forward.
I know that transparency is one of the things that citizens are looking for moving forward, especially with a number of things that have happened in the city. The police department currently being under review as well. What can you say to them now to ensure to them that, you know, the next person that is in the seat of mayor will be transparent?
We will be transparent. That will be the focus of my leadership, being very transparent, restoring trust back into City Hall. That is very important for our residents to begin believing back in our leadership. And that's what I'll continue to focus on with not just the mayor's seat, but also working with our council members, new and old.
There are 3 seats for council that are up right now. How do you plan on working with those new council members and those that are still on there from the current council?
Well, day one is about collaborating and making sure that I understand what their goals and objectives are, having a sit-down meeting and seeing how we can all work together to make those things come to fruition, because if they're successful as council members, then I'll be successful as the mayor of the city. So the overall goal is to make sure that we're doing the right thing for the city of South Fulton and moving us forward, and that's what I'm looking forward to doing.
So the current mayor right now, Khalid Kamau, has pulled about 4.3% of the vote, obviously still early. Your thoughts on that?
Thoughts on? Well, what I would say is that the voters have made it clear that it's time for change. And I think we've had the missed opportunities. We've seen the headlines. We don't want to be in the news. We want to make sure that we're moving this city forward in the right direction and getting the things that we deserve and not the negative headlines.
Your final message to the voters and the people that came out to vote for you today.
I'm excited. Thank you for your support and believing in my leadership. I am ready for 2026 to move this city forward. So I continue to thank everyone for their support, and let's see what South Fulton can do.
Thank you. Thank you for being with us.
One more.
It is a busy night there in South Fulton for Councilwoman Carmelita Gumbs.
A lot of smiles.
A lot of smiles there. Fred, that doesn't sound quite like a victory speech, but in the spectrum of things, it is awfully close to that. Does she have this wrapped up, or is there still a chance of a runoff?
I think there's a better than 50% chance of a runoff. But you know, the key word that I heard her say over and over and over again there was transparency. Right. And so that's that's sort of a double political entendre. So number one is taking a shot at the existing mayor who the council said was not very transparent. But it's also setting the stage for a runoff should she face Bill Edwards, because that was an issue that Khalid used against him when he ran against Bill Edwards 4 years ago. So this is again, has a double sort of benefit why she's in this position and setting herself up, if there's a runoff, to go ahead and make that the central issue for South Fulton. Do we want to go back or do we want to go forward? It was a very smart speech on her part.
And she's really positioning herself as the change candidate here. Once again, like I said before we went to that interview, a lot of the council members have been, but she, from my reporting, has been very vocal, outspoken, not afraid to talk about what she sees as wrong here. And Zach, we were talking about this during the interview, a much different tone, if you will, coming from her when it talks about when it comes to leadership and working with the council there. Something notable, she said, we don't want to be in the news. I think, Fred, you actually said that before we said that.
Maybe she was listening in.
Danelle, what are your thoughts on that?
Having covered some of the city council meetings and what have you, they don't want to be in the news anymore. They don't want to support on that stuff. So that's kind of what I feel like is pushing voters towards her, is that you don't want that kind of candidate again. And she's well, I wouldn't say the exact opposite, but she's different from what they've been used to. So that played in her favor in a big way.
Can we, Mark, I want to get your thoughts on this, because we've talked about statewide races. There are national races happening too in Virginia, New York City, New Jersey, and we'll chat about those in a moment. But even at the granular level of a municipal race in the city of South Fulton, which is an important city, but it is not by any means the largest, even in metro Atlanta, is the fact that we're talking about these voters paying attention to the news, being engaged. Is that something that really does make a difference at these local levels? Are people really engaged and paying attention?
They very clearly knew what they were voting for. These voters knew what they were voting for. This wasn't just walking in and punching the I next to somebody's name or liking the sound of someone's name. They clearly knew. And it was clearly anti-incumbent at the mayor's level. And the mayor, rightly or wrongly, had quite a lot of negative headlines to have to deal with for the last couple of years.
And he had a negative headline just this week with getting a new attorney. That was headlines across all of the stations here, as well as the paper. Still monitoring numbers here, looking at the PSC races. The margins are widening. It looks like Alicia Johnson, the Democrat that is coming for Tim Echols in District 2, now at 79% of the vote. In District 3, Peter Hubbard, the Democrat, now at 79% of the vote. Once again, the totals are still being counted, but we're not seeing a shrinking there. We're seeing a widening of a statewide race that a lot of time and effort was put into. And we are going to stay on top of these numbers. Once again, it is early, and we are still getting them in, Zach.
And we're talking about this conversation at the municipal level. Mark, we'll come to you in just a moment, but we chatted earlier about Abigail Spanberger. The AP recently, just maybe 30 minutes ago, called her as the winner of the Virginia gubernatorial contest. We have her live now. Let's listen into what is surely a victory speech here.
And we're going to do it by producing more energy here in Virginia, and we're going to make sure that large utility users make sure that they pay their fair share. We're going to grow Virginia's economy by investing in apprenticeships and job training of the future. We're going to leverage AI and cutting-edge manufacturing to bring more capital investment into our Commonwealth. We are going to take politics out of our schools. We're going to make sure that teachers are well paid and well respected.
And I think, yeah, we are wrapping up here. That I believe is in Richmond, Virginia, the tail end of Abigail Spanberger's victory speech there. The Democrat, the AP is now calling her the winner of the Virginia gubernatorial contest, which was seen as one of the maybe bellwethers, one of the momentum indicators leading into 2026 in the midterms. We are tracking all of those results nationwide and right here in Georgia. But we also are following breaking news.
Before we get to that breaking news, sorry, Zach, I do want to just make one correction in the PSC race. We're looking at those numbers. I was quoting the Fulton County numbers. I do want to make sure that we're updating the statewide numbers in that PSC race. Democrats in both District 2 and District 3 still holding a slightly widening lead. Alicia Johnson with 57% of the vote, Peter Hubbard with 57% of the vote statewide. So once again, those were the Fulton County numbers at 79. We're staying on top of this. Those numbers still getting reported.
An important point and an important race to track, and we're going to continue to track it just after the break. Before we get there, though, we are also tracking breaking news. Coming out of Louisville, Kentucky, here's the latest. At least 3 people are now dead, 11 people are hurt after a UPS plane crashed and exploded at Muhammad Ali International Airport. It happened as the plane was taking off around 5:15 this evening. Kentucky Governor Andy Beshear said those numbers, unfortunately, are expected to rise. The plane was headed to Honolulu. It was carrying more than 250,000 gallons of fuel when the accident happened. You're seeing images of the fire that resulted from that crash. The NTSB, they are now taking the lead on the investigation into how this happened. We'll keep following this story and bring you the latest as soon as we get it.
You can also text the word results to the number on your screen to get live results sent straight to your phone. Once again, text results to 404-885-7600. We are pulling live results. We will send them straight to you so you can stay up to date with the latest as we cover it. We have much more ahead. Stay with us. We'll be right back.
Welcome back. It is 3 minutes after 9 o'clock here in Georgia. We're now into our third hour of 11 Alive's special election night coverage right here on 11 Alive Plus. Faith, we've been tracking these races for 3+ hours here, and a lot of interesting twists and turns so far tonight.
A lot of interesting twists. A big one in South Fulton. We just heard from Carmelita Gumbs, a council member there, councilwoman who is now in the lead of that race for mayor. And we are still staying on top of the numbers from the statewide Public Service Commission race. You can see it right there. Alicia Johnson at 58% of the vote right now. The Democrat who is running to unseat the incumbent Tim Echols, a Republican. That's in District 2. Over in, are we getting the District 3 numbers right now?
I think let's stay on District 2. There's District 3.
There's District 3.
You ask and you shall receive.
Yeah, the Democrat there, Peter Hubbard, also leading Republican incumbent Finch Johnson. We know that Republicans and Democrats really vying hard for these seats. The numbers are still being reported in, but right now Democrats are taking the lead and probably sitting very happy looking at these results right now.
And we're looking at these statewide results in the PSC contests. In District 2, we just saw the early results, and not so early now. We're starting to get a lot of results in. Alicia Johnson in the lead. We heard from Alicia Johnson just a little bit ago. If we can, let's play part of that interview.
It was an arduous process, of course. The incumbent had been in the office for 14 years. And I think that the people of Georgia this was a referendum on that leadership at the Public Service Commission level. And it was an opportunity for every Georgian to have this choice and a chance to choose who they wanted to represent them. It was with all the support, with my family. It was very taxing because I work full time. I'm a mom, a grandma. During this campaign, we had several family members that were diagnosed with certain illnesses that required extensive care, and so it's been a long, hard-fought battle. Both personally and publicly.
It's important to note, it might have sounded like a victory speech there. We do know that Georgia Democrats calling that a win, but Democrats or Republicans do not call races. We have folks that do call those races. We have not called this race yet, but we will stay on top of it. However, the feeling in that room is very high right now. A lot of smiles. They're very excited about this race. Mark, you're a Republican, you're a strategist, you're hearing this speech. What's going through your mind right now in that other camp, the Republican camp?
It's a little more on the critical side. I think the Republicans never could get their footing under them for their campaign on what their message was. They kind of made this message, there was a bifurcated message. One of them was that we're endorsed by Republican incumbent legislators, which I don't think is a winning message. People like their legislators, but they're not affected by their endorsement.
You're really bearish about endorsements. You told us this on the Georgia Vote a couple of weeks ago.
Yeah, there's so much information now that endorsements have no real significant impact at that level. And then the other is they were sort of put into a position of saying, they didn't phrase it this way, needless to say, but we have raised rates a number of times in the last 3 years, but don't vote for the other guys because they're going to raise rates. It wasn't going to be a winning message. I don't think the Republicans the candidates never grasped it. I think their campaigns probably were being run by third-party entities in a lot of cases. I just think this was a mess.
That is just a mess. That's a
campaign mess.
That's a pretty heavy sentence there from a Republican talking about two Republican incumbents.
Guys. I mean, they're good guys. They just didn't run cohesive campaigns, and I got to hand it to the Democrats. They did.
Is that also, and I think that's very magnanimous of you, I think the Democrat on our panel would say, it seems to be, you guys get along well on the Georgia Vote, even when you do clash. But it seems to be tonight the story of Democrats feeling pretty good at this time. We're at 9:07 p.m. right now on the East Coast. Virginia gubernatorial contest called for Democrat Abigail Spanberger. We're watching to see how some other flashpoint races in Virginia, particularly the Attorney General's race, turns out tonight. Also watching New York City mayoral.
Yep.
And we're watching the New Jersey gubernatorial. There's a lot of narrative spinning and narrative telling right now. Democrats, I'm sure, want to say, hey, look at us. We've got momentum going into 26. Republicans are probably going to downplay that, I'd imagine. But Fred, is there some truth to it? Do Democrats get to say, hey, look, we're in a good spot going into the midterms?
So let's talk about the elephant in the room. That's Donald Trump. So since the November election, when you look at the special elections in Florida for Matt Gaetz' seat that Republicans held on to, but they held on to by a very narrow margin. Look at the special elections that took place in the early part of this year in March. And you look at what's happening in Virginia, which is feeling the brunt of Trumpism and the DOJ and all the cuts and all of that. Republicans, since Donald Trump was elected last November, have not fared well at the ballot box, and that's not a partisan statement. That is just an empirical thing of it. And so, for Democrats, again, I said it earlier in the last hour. For Democrats, I think the biggest obstacle to us winning in 26, aside from these efforts of redistricting and all that, is really believing that we can do it. And when you look at the tapestry of election results across the country, especially on the East Coast, from Florida to potentially tonight in New York City, it shows that America is responding negatively to at least on the East Coast, to Donald Trump. And that's something we talked about on the Georgia votes before, that voters do not give you 4 years anymore. They give you 2 years and 1 year in some cases to make a change or to make moves. And so I think this is, and this again, it's not a partisan thing. It's just looking at the election results. Democrats really should, I think, be bullish going into 2026. And I think that's why. And again, one other thing, these elections are taking place against the backdrop of everything that's happening with the shutdown and SNAP benefits. Again, this is huge.
Absolutely.
Yeah, and Fred, we don't want to cut you off. We have some other results, Faith, we want to go to in just a moment, but I do want to bring Donnell in here. Can I give you the last word on this topic here? Because, Fred, you're alluding to this point where you said, voters don't give you 4 years anymore. They give you 2 or 1. You talk to voters all the time in your reporting. Is it a story where you can be feeling good this month, you can be feeling good this year, but things can change quickly? Is there a risk of saying, hey, we're doing great right now, change nothing if you're a Democrat or a Democratic Party official right now?
It's more, what are you doing for me lately? And the government shutdown's going on, what, 34 days? 35 today.
Pushing on the record in just a few hours now.
So that has a lot to do with what my thinking was a month ago and what my thinking is today, and that's starting to show a little bit.
I also want to ask you, Donnell, too, because we're everybody watching, and we are so happy that you all are watching our stream and watch our show every Sunday. And you are obviously very interested and in tune with politics, but there's another pocket of people, our family members and our friends, that could care less about what's going on today, right? They did not go out and vote because some of them just did not know it was going on. It's an off year. How do you, if the Democrats do take these races, some of the races against the Republicans, vice versa, and Mark, I can bring you in on this too, as a strategist, how do you keep that momentum going until the midterm? Because we're in the age of TikTok and Instagram and YouTube Shorts, where people just do not remember what happened 6 months, 10 months ago, unless it really hurt them financially or with their safety, Donnell.
The Democratic Party's got to use the victories tonight, be small or what have you, as momentum and say, we won these, we can win some more. You just have to take that into 2026. You have to take what you can get.
Remind people.
Yeah, you have to keep on reminding them, look, you voted and look what happened. Now do the same thing in 2026, but a lot more.
Mark, do you agree with that?
Yeah, that's what, from their perspective, that's what they should do. Of course, we have to remember what are the states and what are the races that are up for election. It's New Jersey. That's just a Democrat blue state. Mm-hmm. New York, the city of Atlanta. A lot of these are just Democrat. And the off-year elections, the way they're structured, a lot of times are just, they're Democrat and they're leaning. Now, Virginia has been a swing state. It has heavily leaned Democrat at the presidential level for years now. But these are Democratic states, so it's not terribly surprising that the Democrats would win them. It's sort of a normalized. The real question is why the Republicans could even come within 5 points in New Jersey. That's what's amazing.
Fred?
Well, that's a great spin there, my buddy.
That's not a spin, that's for sure. When's the last time a Republican did that?
A Republican won the Virginia governor's mansion last time.
No, New Jersey.
You'd have to look back to Chris Christie, right?
Yeah, you'd have to go back 20 years, to the last time a Republican won that.
That was a pretty big one. He thought I was going to catapult him to the presidency. Listen, again, and Republicans 2 months ago thought they could win the New Jersey race. So I appreciate what you're doing there, Mark, but let's just look at the reality.
They thought they might win, but let's be real. That is a blue state. That's as blue a state as you get.
Donald Trump did very well there.
Yes, he did. He moved the state much more toward the red, and the Republicans have continued to do that tonight. They've come within just a few points of winning. They did not win, but
That race is not called yet in New Jersey. It's not
And
called.
that's what's unusual,
But in
too.
politics,
To be
I
this
think-
late at night, a New Jersey race with a Republican not being called, this isn't quite so simple as to try to, blue mask everything here.
Well, it's not about blue masking. It's about wins and losses.
See, I just made that word up and you
That
took
was
it.
really good. We should use that there. But the reality is that getting close only counts in horseshoes, not in politics. You know that, right? It's a win. Either you win or you lose, right? And then so in this instance, right, these are big wins, big scores for Democrats. And again, in a state like New Jersey, here's why this is important. Should it go blue? After the defection from labor, from Democrats last year to the Republicans and to Donald Trump, to see a heavy labor state like New Jersey go back blue or stay blue, that is a big sign. That is a huge sign. And again, what we're talking about
this is very close in New Jersey.
But listen, here's what we're talking
and
about,
this
Mark.
is as blue a state as it comes.
Are we seeing? California can
I think
compete
it's
with
about
that.
a shift.
It's
in
about the same as
electorate.
California, and it's moved like 15 points in the last couple of years.
Are we seeing a
quite
microcosm of what the spin and what the conversation is going to be like in the weeks and months to come
But
here?
when it's not spin and it's reality, what do you do about that? I mean, this is a Democrat state that has accelerated toward the Republicans.
So
in the
did
last
you
And when I say that, guys, just to be clear, I mean from both sides here, because we've been talking about this all night long. Whoever does well tonight, we've talked about this with both of you on the Georgia Vote in weeks and really months prior. Whoever does well tonight, they're going to really be banging that drum and saying, look at how phenomenal these results are. And whoever does not so well, they're going to softball the results. They're going to explain why they're not so important.
And using it as messaging. But also, I mean, just back to what you all were talking about, it could be a sign of a shift of electorate, but keep in mind, 2024 was not long ago, and President Trump did very well in all swing states with that as well. So that's
Absolutely.
what Democrats are looking to coming to the midterm. I want to bring things back home here because, Mark, you did bring up something that we were watching up in Roswell. There is a mayoral race there as well as a couple of city council seats. And we are seeing that Kurt Wilson, who's actually the incumbent, is falling behind here, behind his two opponents. In the city council P4 race, David Johnson, the incumbent, also falling behind with 40% of the vote. And then also in the city council P5, William Worthland, the incumbent, falling behind. We only have the mayoral results here. But Mark, why are we seeing this shift of incumbents? And mind you, all the results are not reported yet, but we're seeing this shift of incumbents not getting the majority of the vote right now.
Roswell is, speaking for North Fulton, is a rather split city. And a lot of former leaders came out against the incumbents earlier, probably 4 months ago, and put out a letter that sort of matriculated and put out a letter condemning the incumbents. And I think that had a pretty significant impact. This city has got two teams, and it keeps following back and forth every 2 years, every 4 years between the two teams. Perhaps 4 years from now, these guys can come back and win with their descendant candidates.
Is it a generational shift?
I wouldn't say this is even generational. Some of these are Democrats that are winning. Kurt Wilson's a Republican. Mary Robichaud is a former Democrat Democrat. So some of this has probably some partisan overtones, in fairness to the Democrats. The incumbents seem to be being reelected in Alpharetta and Johns Creek, which are just walking distance from Roswell. In Sandy Springs, the incumbent mayor has three opponents and is right around 50%. Rusty Paul is hovering right at 50%. He may still go over the top tonight, and maybe he won't. The rest of North Fulton seems to be generally reelecting its incumbents, except in Roswell.
Except in Roswell. I mean, that might speak to, Fred, some of that messaging that we were talking about before, or just the emotional, the feeling, the appetite of people in that district wanting change in Roswell.
Absolutely. Mark and I both have done work in Roswell, and it's a very interesting city. It's one of the largest cities in North Fulton, and it's you have some real different pockets that exist within the city. You have some really low-income areas. You have some really affluent areas. You have some strong Democrats. You have some strong Republicans. Tom Price lives there, the old District 6 congressman before he went off in Trump's first term. And so, Roswell, I think reflects the overall general movement in North Fulton from being reliably red, say 20 years ago when the new cities were created like Johns Creek, to more of a toss-up region. And that has gone and leaned more Democrat in the last couple of election cycles. And so, I think that's really interesting what's happening there. And again, it's everybody, every consultant is looking for any kind of sign for what's happening in 2026 or it could happen in 2026. So.
Well, a race that Mark just pulled up is Sandy Springs mayoral race, and I believe we have those results as well. The incumbent there, as Mark was saying, Rusty Paul, ahead in that pack with 45% of the vote, not over 50% right now, so that would still not put him over. But what were you going to say, Zach?
These are races we are tracking. Let's shift gears here for a moment, though. Let's return our focus to the city of South Fulton, the mayoral contest. We're seeing some more results coming in. Carmelita Gum still out to that pretty commanding lead in this crowded mayoral field. I think 8 or 9 candidates total in it. She's out in first place. Former Mayor Bill Edwards, he is in second place. And then we work our way down the line from here. Notably, incumbent Mayor Khalid Kamau, he is in about 6th place right now. He's an incumbent, but you do not see him at the top of this leaderboard. It is all shaping up for a very interesting dynamic in the city of South Fulton, and that is where we find Angelina Salcido. Let's go out to you now, Angelina. What is the mood in this watch party where you are?
Take it back now, y'all.
Hey, very much a party-like mood, as you can tell by the music and the people that are behind me. People are here taking pictures with Carmelita Gums, who is currently in the lead of the race right now. She has 42% of the vote with just the pre-results coming in right now. We talked to her a little bit ago. She was emotional when she walked in here, and she did tell me that she did not expect for the results to come out this way. I want you to take a listen to what she had to say.
The excitement and energy is real here in this building, so I'm excited to see all of the supporters come out. It has been a long 9 months that we've been on this campaign, but the voters are speaking that we're ready to move the city forward, so that's what I'm excited about right now.
Obviously, this race has not been called yet. Right now, you have about 42% of the vote. How are you feeling about that? Were you expecting it to go this way?
Actually, I did not expect it to go this way because it is such a crowded field, but what I am excited to see is that voters are really coming out and making change in the city of South Fulton.
So we are obviously still waiting for more results to come in here to see what is going to happen if this race is actually called for her, or if it will go into a runoff with her and former Mayor Bill Edwards. She was actually expecting for this to go into a runoff. She was well prepared for that. She was telling voters that that may happen today when she hit the streets and she went to polling sites earlier today. She, again, like you heard her say, was not expecting for the results to come out like this, but she says that she passionately ran the race that she has run for the 9 months that she has run it very confidently as well. She's the current council member for District 2. She has worked hand in hand with the council members there, working on different issues like party houses in the city of South Fulton, also working on the issue of gun violence as well, trying to make sure that the citizens of South Fulton in District 2 are safe. She tells me that that is something that she would like to work on in the city of South Fulton if she does become mayor. So we'll just have to wait and see if this race is called for her moving forward, you guys.
Angelina in South Fulton, thank you very much. And that is the real question now in the city of South Fulton and this race. Can a candidate get to 50% plus one? We'll be tracking it. And we are headed to break now, but we will continue to track all of those live results coming up right on the other side. We'll see you there. Welcome back into our continued coverage of Election Night 2025 right here in Georgia. We're pushing on, going into our 3.5-hour mark of a long night tracking election results that are coming in across the state and here in Atlanta. And Faith, there is a race that you've been keeping your eye on and has to do with the Board of Education.
Education is a big deal for a lot of people for a good reason. And there is one seat that is an at-large seat in the Atlanta Board of Education race, that is seat 8, and there are 3 candidates that are vying for that seat, an open race here. Dr. Casey Brock, Royce Mann, a young recent APS grad, just in his 20s, and Aisha Stith, all vying for that. Right now, Casey Brock taking the lead here with 38% of that vote. But it's still a close race. Casey has 38%, Royce at 31%, and Aisha Stith at 29%. The Board of Education obviously overseeing a lot of what's happening in Atlanta public schools. Our panel here with us to discuss the importance of education and a voter, especially when we're talking about Atlanta Public Schools, not the biggest district in our area, but it is a district that a lot of people have eyes on, especially when it comes to reading scores, improving those reading scores, and just the betterment of education. How important is this race in the voters' eyes, especially when we're looking at the politics of it all, Fred?
Well, I think it's significant. You got to remember, school boards have the largest budget in any particular area. So the APS school board is bigger than the city of Atlanta's budget, and so that makes it very, very, very important. And with respect to this, one of the things we've heard Mayor Dickens talk about lately is that APS is enjoying its highest graduation rate in history lately. So this is an opportunity, and his campaign slogan was about moving the city forward. And so I think when you look at what's happening in the APS races, there's a discussion around that. But
and Fred, I hate to cut you off here, but we're getting some developments right now in the PSC race. I am told that we have a live picture from Peter Hubbard's watch party. I believe he is at the podium speaking now. I think there it is. That's Charlie Bailey. He's the chairman of the Democratic Party of Georgia, apparently at the Hubbard event. Let's listen in for a moment here.
Voted for, we're proud to, that strips away $540 million from rural health care in Georgia. These same issues all come back to one thing, and that is that Republicans, when they get power, they may talk a big game about helping working people, but when they get power, they protect moneyed interests. And so Georgians, just like they did in this election next year, will they have the opportunity to say, you know what, we don't want to put up with that anymore as well.
What do you think that this says about, we've heard so much leading up to tonight, this is a referendum on what's going on in Washington. Do you think that has any play in local politics at all with the way people are feeling that affordability crunch?
Well, it does, because what they're doing in Washington, what Mike Collins and Buddy Carter are doing in Washington, is affecting people here. You know, just on the Affordable Care Act subsidies, you got 1.4 million Georgians that could have their premiums double because of the choices of Mike Collins and Buddy Carter. And so, you know, we've had hospitals, a labor and delivery unit at the hospital up in Livonia. It's closed now. You've got stresses. We've had 12 hospitals closed in the last 12 years. So what Republicans are doing in Washington is connected to what Republicans have done here for 22 years, is connected to the PSC. And that's because people like Burt Jones, who put on their designer jeans and traipse around Georgia and talk about caring about working folks, again, when they get power, they don't do anything about it. So it's having an effect on people's lives. And what they're understanding is that people like Donald Trump and Burt Jones and Mike Collins, they betrayed them. They told them they were going to look after them. What did Donald Trump say? We're going to lower the car note. We're going to lower the house note. We're going to lower inflation. And what has happened? Not only have they not lowered those things, but they have put these extra stressors all to reward billionaires with $1 million a year in a tax cut and fund it by taking away their health care. So people, unfortunately, are feeling it. But what they need to remember, and what this night, what this election says, is that these voters, whether they're Democrats, Republicans, Independents, they're not spectators in the play. They're the actors in the play. They get to have a say in how this is going to go. And they get to determine whether we're going to have good people like Jon Ossoff reelected to the United States Senate or people like Mike Collins and Buddy Carter.
I know Raul kind of already asked this, but what are you taking away from this victory into your 2026 strategy?
I mean, I think it's a lot of what I've been talking about, which is what people are dealing with on a day-to-day basis. Which the vast majority of Georgians, they get up every day and they're worried about, is my kid safe? How are they doing in school? If I get a hospital bill, can I pay it? Can I look at my kid in the eye, my grandkid, my niece and nephew, and say, with a straight face, they're going to have a little bit more opportunity than the life that I have. And Republican policies at the federal, state, PSC, even the local level, have made those things harder for Georgia families to achieve. And so what we are going to do is make sure we keep reminding Georgians of the consequences of Republican rule and tell them they don't have to put up with it. They can do something else. They can make a different choice. That's what they've done in this PSC election. And that's what we're going to do next year. We're going to re-elect Jon Ossoff to the United States Senate, somebody that actually gives a damn about working people. And we're going to win up and down the ballot to restore for the working people power in this state and take it away from the moneyed interests that the Republicans have been supporting.
Thank you, Chairman.
Thank you.
All right, you were just listening in to Charlie Bailey, of course, the head of the Georgia Democratic Party over there at the Hyatt, where Mayor Andre Dickens has now, that race has been called. He is going to serve a second term. We heard a lot of the Democratic Party talking points. We also have another win in a race that we were just talking about here, a projected winner in the New Jersey gubernatorial race. Mickey Sherrill, a Democrat, projected to win over Jack Ciattarelli, the Republican there in New Jersey. We were just talking about that race. We're seeing some wins for Democrats here in Georgia as well as those other big races. I want to talk about what we're hearing Mr. Bailey talk about. Obviously, he's newly installed head of the Democratic Party, coming in after what Democrats would consider a slaughter in 2024, really coming in and saying that I'm going to use my background as a lawyer to prove to the people that this is why Democrats should be in those seats. Do you see that messaging, Mark, as something that is going to resonate emotionally and drive out that turnout come these races next year?
It's basically the same old, same old. This is what the Democrats argue every 2 years. They argue this sort of class warfare argument that Republicans get this tax cut and Republicans give the tax cuts, and the Democrats are there to protect people from losing their benefits. So, to some degree, it always works, but I don't know that it's going to work. That particular message is not going to work any more than it usually does over the long run.
Well, I think the difference between that message then and the message now is that Republicans have just added about roughly $4 trillion to the deficit via the Big Beautiful Bill. And so Republicans ceded the ground around fiscal responsibility. There was a big, strong conversation around that, and Republicans have consistently been able to say that, but you can't make that argument under Trumpism. Not now, and you couldn't do it from 2016 to 2020. And so, we're seeing the ground shift about that. Last year was about inflation. Last year was about the debt. Last year was about people's personal finances. All those have shifted in favor of, or away from, I should say, from Donald Trump in 2025. And I think we're starting to see the results of that.
I'd argue that there's a lot of cultural issues, though, in that campaign as well, Donnell, on the ground. I mean, you were at all of those rallies. You saw the campaign. You were talking to the people. Is what Mr. Bailey, what we just heard from him, is that resonating with voters right now?
What I hear most from readers is we have to get some wins. They needed to see results and see them in the win column, even if they're not big. And they're seeing that tonight, and they're seeing it nationally, and that matters. It matters that you're not losing all the time. They don't have the White House, they understand that. They don't have a bunch of things, but they have some wins, and it's something to work towards.
And I wondered that when, I mean, you make a really good point there, too, because what we saw, too, in recess when the Congress people will come down to speak with their constituents at these town halls was frustration among Democrats. You guys aren't doing enough. We saw some frustration among Republicans as well. I wouldn't say as much frustration, but we go back to the poll that we saw both from NBC and AJC polling both sides, Republicans and Democrats, not too happy with their parties right now. They don't trust the parties. They're not happy with them overall. Some people, of course, are, Mark. But I mean, I feel like it's that messaging. How do you drive that emotion? How do you drive that momentum for people to, number one, trust that you're going to do what you say you do, and you're not just a politician, Mark?
Well, the other interesting thing about all of this is, the Democratic Party polls as poorly as it has ever polled. Its polling numbers for Democratic candidates is among the worst it has ever been in history. When you name Democratic Party, it's bad. However, at the same time, it's a binary choice. They don't like Republicans either. Swing voters and Democrats don't like Republicans either. So Republicans are actually more happy with their party. They're more happy with
We do have those
Trump.
numbers up, and we do have the Republican. This is the GOP feeling 46%, and I believe the number before that was 43%. So still a majority of Republicans, though, according to these numbers, are not happy.
Republicans are always unhappy with their party. That's part of the equation. I mean, I've never known Republicans to say, that things are great. It's sort of the instinct of Republicans. But at the same time, I think they're polling better than they have polled in most any other year right
so they're
now.
liked less.
But
less
they're not liked by the swing voters and the actual Democrat voters.
Well, I just wanna
It's a
say
binary choice.
I want to say this. So Mark and I both do a lot of polling, and so I just want to say this for our viewers. Most of the polling shows the how people feel about the Democratic Party versus Republican people, and that's really kind of comparing apples and oranges, comparing a party to an individual. If we would put up polls, and we saw this a couple of weeks ago, or months ago, we looked at the polls here in Georgia about how people feel about Jon Ossoff versus the Democratic Party. There was a huge difference, between the individual, the person in Jon Ossoff, and the Democratic Party.
Tease that out more for viewers who may be not familiar with that poll. What did that show?
So that showed that Jon Ossoff was actually hovering right around 50%. Well, actually, it was actually more than 50% with a favorable, if you add the favorable strongly and somewhat strongly, and the Democratic Party was in the low 30s, right? So there's almost a 20-point gap.
You're saying Senator Ossoff, the individual, was substantially
And
outpacing the favorability of his party.
Absolutely.
In this poll. Faith?
Sorry, we just have some big news, and if I could just do a pause, we do have a race called in New York City. Zohran Mamdani is declared the winner in New York City in that mayoral election over former Governor Andrew Cuomo, who people thought that race was going to be very tight. Pulling up the results here from NBC News. He is projected to win with 49% of the vote right now. Andrew Cuomo getting 41% of the vote, and then Curtis Sliwa at 7.9%. People like his personality didn't think he was going to do too well in that election. But this is another, big win for Democrats here. Obviously, New York City.
Cuomo's a Democrat too, so 93% of people voted Democrat.
However, Donald Trump did endorse Cuomo. I think the first maybe Democrat that he's ever endorsed.
Sliwa's vote got cut in half over the last 24 hours. I mean, he's polling at 15. He got 7. Apparently got 7.
And while they are both Democrats, I think, Mark, what it does speak to are two different sides of the Democratic Party, correct? Right? Former Governor Cuomo, seen more of this establishment candidate, kind of, going by the way that things have been done. Mamdani coming in, more progressive, looking at things a different way, obviously a much younger candidate as well. And maybe that's the shift that we could be seeing overall nationally.
He's more ideological, there's no question about it, but Cuomo was such an enormously damaged candidate going into this. This was the guy that was really pretty responsible for the deaths of a lot of senior citizens that got trapped in nursing homes with masking. And I mean, there were a lot of people that are very angry with him to this day over COVID.
And just to be fair, because he's obviously not in the room to defend himself, I think he would push back on that characterization of his time in the governor's office. And Faith, you were in New York covering all of
on the ground in New
this.
York City working during all of that time as
If you have if you're a Democrat, you have a choice because you're not going to vote for Curtis Sliwa. You're going to vote for Cuomo, who had already been rejected in a Democratic primary and was very unpopular with the public, versus Mamdani, who, for all of his failings and trappings, at least he's a breath of fresh air.
Well, Cuomo was rejected at a time. Donnell, we want to make sure that you're coming in here too. Cuomo was rejected at a time, but I feel like Mamdani, and I apologize for not getting his name right. I'm trying to get it right here. The established Democratic Party, at first, I'd say, did not want him as that candidate. Donnell?
He was seen as an outsider.
The outsider.
Not a typical politician. In New York politics, I'm born and raised in Brooklyn. New York politics is familial. Cuomo. It's familial. It's like, oh, I know his father. Oh, I know. Where'd you go to high school? That's how New York politics works. And he was not like that. But like you said, there's a shift in, hey, something brand new, something fresh.
I want to say two things about it. Number one, I think Mamdani is the first person to defeat the same person twice before to become mayor of New York City. He defeated Cuomo in the Democratic primary, and then he won again today. But there's always the story behind the story, and y'all know I love the numbers. So right now, Mamdani is sitting at about 782,000 votes. Whereas Eric Adams, 4 years ago, received 753,000 votes, and Bill de Blasio, 760,000. So this is more than just an expected Democratic win. Democrats right now are searching for a direction going into 2026. And right now, with votes still out, Mamdani has received more votes than de Blasio or Eric Adams, the last two Democrats elected in New York City. There's a statement there about the direction. Remember,
And they're finding
New York
it
City-
based on hate. That's the thing. Mamdani and hate go hand in hand. This guy is he is a far left hater.
You hate him? Is that what he's driven
No,
by?
he is a hater.
Can you explain, Mark?
He is aggressively anti-Semitic.
Now, there are going to be Democrats who and others who strongly push back against that claim.
Not many.
Fred.
So listen, I'm going to push back against that. I mean, Mamdani, just because he's Muslim does not mean he's anti-Semitic.
That's right.
Now, and I'm not.
That's not because of that.
And so what I am saying is that he has made strong overtures throughout really since the June election to bring together all the communities of New York City. Now, I will say this as someone I teach in New York City. I teach at a school in the Bronx, and so the way that he has engaged young voters has really been remarkable. Now, I wouldn't define him as a candidate, as a hate candidate. He is a candidate who's very different. He's a candidate who I think has really worked to be inclusive, and there's something about him that and it's not. You can't say this is. I don't think you can solely attribute it to hate. When you look at these kind of numbers, when he is outpacing Bill de Blasio, when he's outpacing Eric Adams and other people with his vote totals, that means that he's bringing in people that did not vote before. And those are not people who are filled with hate. These are people who last year, now if you're right, I will give you this, if this is fueled by hate, then so was last year's election when Donald Trump cut into Democratic totals in New York City.
He is a perfect representative of the Democratic Party in 2025. Perfect.
A winner?
Perfect.
A winner?
He won. And he won.
I mean,
In
there's
New
been a lot of
York.
wins this year.
And if New York translates to the rest of the country,
he
didn't run in Virginia. He didn't run in the PSC in
but
Georgia.
Democrats are winning.
But
Let's hold on this
perfect
point
example of
here,
the
Fred,
Democrats.
Mark. Let's hold on this point here. But you're underscoring, I think, a lot of the tensions both between the Republican and the Democratic parties, and also the generational tensions, the ideological tensions between the different factions within both of these big tent parties. We're going to shift gears, though, here, because, believe it or not, there is more going on than the New York City mayoral race tonight in the United States. We have races.
We may get back to it.
We may get back to it, though. You know, a lot of people say New York is the heartbeat of America, but we think Georgia is the heartbeat of America, and so we're going to turn to another Georgia race. Our Joe Ripley, he is standing by live right now in Atlanta. Joe, you've been covering the mayoral race here in Atlanta. What's the latest?
Yeah, and it is bumping here at the Hyatt Regency in downtown Atlanta, where Mayor Andre Dickens has been declared the winner of the 2025 Atlanta mayoral race, winning a second term. He will serve another 4 years as mayor here, and you can see behind me just how packed this party is. We want to introduce you to Jason Estevez, former state senator, gubernatorial candidate for next year. Welcome. What brought you here tonight?
Yeah, I'm here to celebrate Mayor Andre Dickens and the work he's done to help unite Atlanta. Look, I understand the challenges that he faced. 4 years ago, Atlanta was in crisis, and the city was more divided than ever before. He came in, and I was proud to work with him to keep the city united in the face of the Buckhead City movement, and he did that by focusing in on what really matters, keeping our families safe, making Atlanta more affordable. And there's a lot more work that we need to do in this city and across the state, which is why I'm supporting him as mayor and why I'm running to be the next governor of the state.
Right, and you were not the only gubernatorial candidate in the House tonight. We spoke earlier with former Lieutenant Governor Jeff Duncan, but to see you both here tonight, obviously there's something you feel you could take away from a Mayor Andre Dickens campaign. What do you see and how he won tonight that can carry you ahead into 2026?
Yeah, well, look, it's about meeting people where they are and focusing in on the issues that they care about. We've seen that Mayor Dickens has been focused on housing, focused on making Atlanta more affordable, ensuring that our children have more opportunities than what we've had. And that's what my campaign has been focused on. And that's what I see will be the issue next year. How do we focus on the health, wealth, and opportunities for Georgians all across this state? Andre Dickens has provided a great blueprint for that. And we've also seen affordability and the cost of living be an issue with the Public Service Commission. So it's going to be on the ballot again next year, and we're going to be laser focused on it.
Great. I hope you can hear yourself.
Yeah.
Barely. It's pretty loud in here, but that just goes to show you the excitement in this room. Got Jason Estevez, gubernatorial candidate for 2026 and former state senator, in support of Andre Dickens, who has now won a second term as Atlanta mayor. We'll send things back to you in the studio.
Joe Ripley, thank you very much. And we're seeing a theme here at this Andre Dickens watch party. A lot of the Democratic gubernatorial candidates making a stop there as Mayor Andre Dickens is elected to a second term leading the city of Atlanta. Much more live results coverage coming up right after the break. We'll see you then. Stay with us. Welcome back into our continuing coverage of Decision 2025 here in Georgia. Election results continue to roll in both here in Georgia and around the country. And if you have been following along with us throughout the night, and we hope that you have, and we're grateful that you're still here with us, almost 4 hours into our coverage now, you've seen a bit of a trend emerging at the Andre Dickens watch party. The one-term mayor recently re-elected just a little bit earlier tonight to a second term leading the city of Atlanta, and we've seen a lot of prominent Democrats who are running for governor making cameos at that watch party tonight.
That's right. We just heard from Jason Estevez, the former state senator, and we also heard from a former Republican, that's Jeff Duncan, earlier tonight, who is trying to run as a Democrat. You're taking a look here at the results of the city of Atlanta mayoral race. Mayor Andre Dickens projected the winner here. The race called for him. Not a big surprise to most people here in Atlanta. He's a very popular mayor. People wanted to give him a chance at another year, or another term rather, to do what he says he wants to do for the city. But let's get into that gubernatorial race a little bit if we can. We know that there is a very crowded field right now. We are still very early. We're going to see a primary coming up next year. And I do want to start with, obviously we just heard from Jason Estevez, and just get your thoughts on where he is right now in that field. And why don't we compare him to Jeff Duncan, because we did hear from Jeff Duncan a little earlier ago. Donnell, let's start with you.
I had both gentlemen into the Atlanta Voice to interview with me about a month ago. Totally different candidates, both playing the whole we need change market and doing that. They're both interesting fellows. Couldn't be more different. Couldn't be more different. It's not, and it has nothing to do with race. It has to do with the fact that Jeff Duncan is trying to kind of stave off the whole, weren't you Republican thing, and Jason Estevez is saying that I'm the breath of fresh air that you need. I'm totally different from the guys who are running. So it's going to be very interesting what that primary looks like.
Is the fact that we're seeing them making these cameos at this watch party, Fred, a sign that they're thinking similar to you, that this is a night where if you're a Democrat, you want to be prominent and you want to draft a little bit off of the tailwind from what's looking to shape up to be a pretty good night for Democrats here in Georgia?
Well, absolutely, and you want to take advantage of the earned media opportunities because we're covering it. And I'm sure that media outlets are covering that. So this is an opportunity for them to make the rounds, get a little camera time, and get camera time with Democrats. If you voted in this election, you're gonna vote in the May election, and so this is an opportunity for them to speak to, a good chunk of their voters. I think most of us think we might have 800,000 or so votes in the primary, and it looks like right now Mayor Dickens and Atlanta will probably give you, based on this, at the very least, 70, 80,000 votes. So that's 10% of what you need. So they're smart to do this. I think it'll be interesting to see who else stops by. You have Mike Thurmond, you have former Atlanta Mayor Keisha Lance Bottoms. We haven't heard from her yet, and then you have other candidates as well. So we'll see if the other candidates continue to make their way through this. But it's a necessary stop because it's almost impossible to win a Democratic primary in Georgia without winning Atlanta, which covers both Fulton and DeKalb County.
Also a question, just a follow-up. Do you think we'll see an endorsement from Mayor Dickens before the primary?
I think he's already said that he's not planning on doing that. He wants to sit that one out. I think his focus will be on turning out the vote and turning Georgia blue.
If I were advising him, decide the primary and then get behind whoever that.
Is that a little bit of a slap? If you don't mind me asking the
Please,
question,
go
because
ahead.
it just occurred to me. I'm just talking out loud here. But I mean, is that a little bit of a slap to Keisha Lance Bottoms that he wouldn't do an endorsement, given that she was mayor and now he's mayor?
Oh, I don't think so at all. I mean, he said what he said about that is that that's his girl, but he respects all the Democrats who are running, and so his goal is to win Georgia in November.
And guys, let's continue this conversation. I do want to preface this with we may have to, and we're going to have to do it right now. This is Mayor Andre Dickens at the podium. Let's listen in. There it goes. We have sound there. I think we're getting our shot ready, but this is live TV. This is what happens. It's been a busy election night. You see Mayor Andre Dickens there. I think we got his microphone now. Let's listen in.
I see you. So Olympian right here. And I'm so excited to be your mayor for 4 more years. I'm so proud and humbled to be standing here to serve the greatest city in the whole world and to be your mayor. At 16 years old, a kid from Adamsville, I dreamed and believed that I would become mayor of Atlanta one day. I looked up to mayors like Mayor Maynard Jackson and Andrew Young, and I knew that this would be my path. I'm here because of those that came before me, and I stand on the shoulders of those giants of mayors: Maynard Jackson, Andrew Young, Bill Campbell, Shirley Franklin, Kasim Reed, Keisha Lance Bottoms, and now, once again, yours truly, Andre Dickens. This is the Atlanta that we all dream of, where a kid from the SWAT, Southwest Atlanta, can grow up. I can grow up to win not 1, not 2, not 3, but 4 citywide elections in the ATL. We are 4 for 4 in the 404, y'all. 4 for 4 across the 404. I gotta thank God and good people for all of these victories. And it couldn't have happened without so many different people coming together. It's a bright light, so I can't see you all, but I know you're out there. I know my supporters, my friends, my family, those that's uplifted me along the way are here. So first and foremost, I have to thank my campaign team. They keep me running and playing all the door knocking and mail drops. On top of that, playing all these events. My fundraising team, all of you guys, thank you all for being here with me. And I want to thank all the volunteers and all the supporters. We couldn't have done this without the people that are giving their own time and resources to this campaign. From those who were there that were Team Dickens on day one. Those that were with me way back in 2013. And then those that were with me in 2021 when I was polling at 4%. I thank you all for being there then and being here now. Thank you to my campaign chairs. You heard from some of them. They put their name and their support behind me from the beginning. Thank you to these campaign chairs. To everyone serving in my administration, We got some leaders here that run government around here, from chiefs to commissioners. They're all here, and this wouldn't be possible. My success is all because of their leadership, of all the departments and the teams of the city of Atlanta. Your hard work and dedication is what this group project is all about. To my family and my friends, especially my mom and my sister and my daughter, who voted for me for the first time today as a 20-year-old. Y'all inspire me, you motivate me, and you give me my encouragement that I need to be able to keep on keeping on and to work on this city each and every day. I can't let this night pass, though. I really can't let this night pass without acknowledging the man who I put all my trust in during my very first election. I told him when I was 16 years old that one day I'd be mayor. And I told him and I told his mom. And that man is my brother, the late Cabral Franklin. Cabral Franklin is looking down, a real one. He's a real one that believed in me. I'm 4 for 4. He got the first one. He believed, and I'm thankful for him. God gave him to me to be able to start this political journey. And last but not least, to the Atlanta voters, thank you, Atlanta. Thank you, Atlanta. We obviously wouldn't be here without you standing in the lines, casting your ballots, and putting your trust in me to lead this city. Thank you to all the Atlanta voters that came out this year. Now, at this time, 4 years ago, we were sitting in a room on Auburn Avenue on a general election night with votes that were too close to call at this 10 p.m. time. We didn't have all the votes in, and we were hoping, just hoping and praying that we make it into the runoff. We were trying to convince the press to come to see us that night for that event. But there was other things that they were interested in, and there was other things going on that night. There were other races of some big names, etc. And, of course, the Braves were in the World Series that night, too. And both victories were assured, my victory and the Braves that night. As the night went on, the votes kept coming in, and people kept coming. People realized that this was the place to be because we might just pull this off. We might just make it into the runoff. And our small team, once we were announced that we were making it into the runoff, we made it onto that small stage. I barely had enough light to be able to see my notes. Austin Wagner had to hold his camera phone. The wind was blowing. But what was going on behind me, I had my friends, I had my family. And over my shoulder, if you look at those pictures, was my mentor, my hero, John Lewis. His mural was over my shoulder. That gave me momentum to carry forward. And at that moment, I knew the dreams that I had at 16 years old, that kid from Atlanta, from Adamsville, would then come true. And sure, we had work to do, but I knew that standing on that tiny stage, that our path was set. And we put in the work for the next 4 weeks and stood on stages to declare victory at the gathering spot, Ryan Wilson. And there was so many people in that space that the stage probably would have collapsed if one more came on. And then with the power of that movement that we created in this city, we got to work for you for 4 years. We drew circles, not lines. And we gathered people from all over the city into this group project. And our success is undeniable. The Group Project of Atlanta is unstoppable. And tonight, with a resounding voice, the voters let no doubt be had, no doubt that Andre Dickens will be your mayor once again for 4 more years. Left no doubt that the Group Project is the reason for our success. And success looks like 12,000 affordable home units and $60 million towards housing those that are unhoused. Success looks like standing with our labor unions and delivering a $17.50 an hour minimum wage for our city employees. Success looks like Atlanta Public Schools having the highest graduation rate ever in the city's history. Success looks like a 44% drop in homicides in this city. Success looks like filling 30,000 potholes. You can try for that. Don't let one get you down. We got 30,000 taken care of. We installed 40,000 street lights to make sure we lit up the night. We hired over 14,000 young people and paid them a minimum of $15 an hour each and every summer. And we added over 600 acres of green space so you can have trails and quality of life in this city. And while doing all that good, for the first time ever, Atlanta now has a AAA credit rating. People are putting their faith in the ATL again, and Atlanta is delivering for its people. So I want to take a moment to thank the Atlanta City Council members who have supported us throughout the first term. We couldn't have accomplished this without a strong and dedicated Atlanta City Council. And congratulations to all of the members that's going to be in the upcoming City Council. Congratulations on your races. I know all of them haven't been called yet, but I am ready to work with each and every last one of you to keep doing the people's work for the city of Atlanta. And let's be clear, there's a lot of work still left to be done. This second term will be an opportunity to double down on the work that we've started, because we're on a mission to make Atlanta the best city in the nation to raise a child. That's our North Star. That's our goal. And so that means that we need to bring down the cost of housing. We need to keep our city safe as we have done. We need to invest in our workforce and invest in our youth and invest in our seniors. And we're in a time in our country where cities are the place where people are turning to for help. For over a month now, our federal government has been closed. The doors have been closed. The White House has made it clear that they're not interested in helping those that are in need, all while necessities of life are getting more and more expensive: housing, groceries, utilities, and more. And utilities, I'd have to stop here to congratulate two individuals who are going to work to bring down our utility costs. To Alicia Johnson and Peter Hubbard, congratulations, Alicia Johnson and Peter Hubbard. For those of you who don't know why everybody's excited right now, the new Public Service Commission, PSC races, were the first domino to fall for the Republicans. They gotta get this thing together and figure it out. And now Democrats have done the job. Let's give it up for those two incredible candidates that have just won PSC to help us bring down our utility costs. And so while groceries and health care are getting more and more expensive, the White House and the federal government is taking away programs like SNAP. And to add insult, they're doing all this while ensuring the government is open enough to build a new ballroom, and bailing out Argentina, and buying new planes, but not paying the SNAP bill. Cities are being called upon to fill that gap, and Atlanta is coming together to take care of our people that are in need when the federal government don't stand up for the people of Atlanta, the people of Georgia, or the people of America, just like we've always done. But the norms of our democracy are being challenged. We'll keep fighting. We'll keep fighting back against these struggles, but we're also going to stay focused on the struggle of our people. It isn't enough to just stand on the soapbox. We have to roll up our sleeves and really help those in need. Now, our success has made Atlanta a leader in this country. So let's show people what happens when Atlanta works together. Let's show them how to build affordable housing. Let's show them how to eliminate food deserts and to make Atlanta the best place in the nation to raise a family. Let's show them how to eliminate the root causes of crime while still supporting our local police force. Let's show them how this city thrives when we open our arms and welcome those from all around the world. Let's show them how to support neighborhoods that have been abandoned for generations. Our future is bright, Atlanta. One city with one bright future. And I thank you for putting your faith in me for another 4 years. I hope you're feeling so excited, Atlanta. And I hope for what we can do for the future for the next 4 years. And I hope you don't think that I'm gonna slow down in my second term. No, you know me. I work from can't see morning to can't see night. If you know anything about me, we work all day, we work all night, and we get the job done. Because I love this city, and from the looks of it, this city loves me back. We're gonna keep fighting for the ATL. Atlanta, are you ready to keep up the fight? Are you ready to fight for affordable housing? Are you ready to fight against those who want us to fail? Are you ready to fight against poverty and against income inequality? Are you ready to show this nation that the South still got something to say? God bless you all, and God bless the city of Atlanta. I love you. Let's get to work, ATL. Let's go.
That is Atlanta Mayor Andre Dickens delivering a victory speech just after being projected the winner of a second term leading the city of Atlanta. He is a Democratic incumbent, and it has been a good night for Democrats across the nation here. I want to run you through some of the results we've been tracking across the nation here quickly because they may tell a story here. Here in Atlanta, we saw Mayor Andre Dickens retain his seat. That wasn't much of a surprise, but he did win it by a sizable margin. Abigail Spanberger, the Democratic gubernatorial candidate in Virginia, she won that contest in a swing state of Virginia. In New York City, Zohran Mamdani, the Democratic Socialist, he won the New York City mayoral race. And in New Jersey, the Democrat Mikey Sherrill won that race for governor there. A lot of arrows pointing towards a night that Democrats are going to be happy about, Republicans not so much.
And then back here at home, looking at a couple of key races, speaking of Democrats versus Republicans, we are not calling this race, but you heard Mayor Dickens talk about it. The PSC, the Public Service Commission, as of right now, District 1, that was the incumbent, the Republican Tim Echols. He is falling behind to Alicia Johnson, the Democrat there. She has 60% of the vote. In District 2, the incumbent Finch Johnson, the Republican, also behind Pete Hubbard, the Democrat, with 60% of the vote. In South Fulton, another race we've been monitoring very closely, the incumbent there, Khalid Kamau, Mayor Kobe, a distant 6th place, not close at all. Council member Carmelita Gums, she has 39%, so she'll be heading into a runoff. There's still a battle for second place here between Mark Baker and former Mayor Bill Edwards. There's about 75% of the vote in that race. And then for City Council President, I heard that they're actually just upstairs from where Mayor Dickens is right now. That is Marcy Collier Overstreet, the councilwoman from Atlanta, going against Rohit Malhotra. He right now is behind her, 43%. Collier Overstreet at 56%. That race is still being counted as well. So we will continue to update these numbers online. But before we head out for the night, we do want to bring back our panel right now for final thoughts. I mean, guys, like Zach was saying before we got on air here at 7 o'clock, we've been talking about this really since 6 o'clock, 3 hours. Your big takeaways from this evening. Donnell, we'll start with you down there.
Voter engagement. It's a midterm. People are normally not supposed to care. You should care. For these numbers, for all these things that you all mentioned, in New York, there's over 2 million votes total. People care. You should care about midterms. So voter engagement is my big takeaway.
Fred, let's get your final thoughts here.
The story behind the story is the numbers, are the numbers. It's not just that Democrats are winning, it's that you're seeing record turnout and you're seeing really high margins. And for those of us in Georgia who care about these such things, the magic number is 114. That's the vote gap between Democrats and Republicans over the last 5 general elections going into today. If Democrats can best them by 114,000 votes, then Democrats will have more votes and have won 5 of the 7 major elections since COVID. And that to me, is the weather band going into 2026.
Mark?
Well, tonight I was actually looking at some of the local races to take a look at how incumbents were doing at the local races, and it's a mixed bag. Some of the incumbents are doing just fine. The incumbent appears to be winning in Johns Creek tonight, outside the perimeter here, appears to be leading in Sandy Springs. But the incumbent in Roswell, the mayor there, appears to be losing, or at least in a runoff. And in Marietta, the incumbent there, the incumbent mayor, Thunder Tumlin, is behind tonight by just 3 percentage points. So it's a mixed bag at the local level.
A very young candidate too in that Marietta race as well. So we will continue to monitor those thoughts. Gentlemen, thank you so much for being on with us for these couple of hours. And we will see you soon on a Sunday on the Georgia Vote talking about all of this as well. Zach, thank you also for being here.
Thank you. And again, thank you guys. And for everybody who stayed with us tonight too, we're on hour 3 if you're counting just from the start of our special election coverage, and hour 5 and really day 5, day 10, month 5, month 10. We've been covering Georgia
And we're
politics.
just getting started.
And we are just getting started. We appreciate you for sticking with us along this whole ride. There's much more to come, including in less than an hour. Our stream right now is going to take a break, but we will be back for 11 Alive News at 11 tonight here on 11 Alive Plus.
And stay with us because we'll continue to stream these numbers as we come in. The race is still being reported, so don't go anywhere. You can just keep it on, and we'll see you at 11. Thank you all so much for joining us.